Hello. Google Voice will try to connect you.
Pretty rough.
Peeled away all the skin, so I'm not overly concerned. But the patient will need some antifungal treatment because although we've removed the
Good evening, everybody. It is 6 o'clock and we are ready to start. This is the April 27th meeting of the Celebration Residential's own Celebration Residential Owners Association, Inc. It's 6 o'clock and we are getting ready to begin. We have a nice full house today. Nice to see. We have several people online. We have a long agenda today with some quite a few items. So we'll be getting to that shortly. First, I need to ask Lauren, was the meeting properly noticed?
It was properly noticed.
And we do have a quorum.
We have quorum and Jared's online.
Okay, so that's all 7 of us. Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It was 6:03. Thereabouts. Okay, before we go into owners' comments. No. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. Yeah, I missed it. Sorry, thank you, David. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance first.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we start into owners' comments, we are all very much aware that there are several hot topics on the agenda today. I would ask that each of you be respectful if you do come up and talk. Same thing with the board. If you do come up and talk, you will have 3 minutes. We will not be, if your question if your statement requires an answer, we will not be answering them until the appropriate time. We're just going to be keeping track of any questions that have to do with agenda items. So as we start that process, we'll make sure that all of your questions have gotten answered. Okay, everybody with me on that? Okay, with that, let's start the owner comment period. Again, you have 3 minutes. You have the little ticking clock on there. You guys can ring it. Just going to put a little clock there so you know how much time you have. We'll ask you to come up to the podium, state your name, state your address. Ready? Ready. Okay. First person on the list is a gentleman that lives at 308 North Village Court. 308 North Village Court. Joshua Baker. Oh, there he is.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Baker, 308 North Village Street. I have 2 items of a concern that I have. The first is the North Village men's bathroom has had a urinal out of order for over 60 days.
Hey, I get that.
The second item I have is the playground. As an owner, I have 15 days to complete a playground project. The Long Meadow Playground has exceeded that, which exceeds the required time that an owner has to complete a project. Is there an expected timeline in the next 15 days that the playground will be open for use?
That's going to be part of the management report.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, Smithy, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay.
All right. Can we Let's talk about everybody's favorite subject, pickleball. So I'll start off with what I said last time. 15,000 residents. That's voting and non-voting, but all can use the amenity. We've got about 250 registered pickleball players, which is 1.5%, which are also renters and owners. And we're talking about roughly $2 million to spend on that 1.5%. You know, I want to go through a couple of items here that we hear every time about pickleball when somebody gets up that's pro pickleball. It's the fastest growing sport in America, fastest growing. You know, big growth, 160% growth every year over year. But let's talk about how it relates to celebration. Again, there's 250 registered pickleball players. They've had the group for 8 years. If you average that out over 8 years, that's like 33 members a year. Does not sound like explosive growth to me. Not at all. The next one, we talk about, oh, there's no pickleball courts around here. Nobody has pickleball courts, so we need somewhere to play. The USTA Corporate Center has 99 courts in Lake Milton. That's where the tournaments are held. They're open to the public every day. The next closest is Reunion, which has 2 courts. All right. Does it increase property value? We hear that all the time. It increases property value. Well, let's talk about places that are similar to Celebration. And do they have pickleball courts? Baldwin Park, built right after Celebration. Same people built it pretty much. Copying Celebration. 0 pickleball courts. Let's talk about the new place that everybody's moving to, the popular place in Orlando right now, Laureate Park. Now, if they had thought pickleball would increase sales and increase their property values, they would build pickleball courts. No pickleball courts. And again, the closest to us, Reunion, does have 2, but only 2 pickleball courts. All right. I also want to focus on what I call Celebration rot. I'd rather see us put this money towards bringing our amenities up to standards than where they are now. Let's look like Island Village, the whole community. You know, we used to be the gold standard for new urbanism. We used to be the gold standard with articles, 2,000, 3,000 articles a year written about us. Now we hear about murders and Celebration, kids wanting to kill the teachers, nothing except that. Also, friends that live in Laureate Park, they say, hey, it's like Celebration, but much nicer. We used to be the gold standard. Now we're the old standard. Let's be the gold standard again. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick Larson? Dick Larson? Yes.
Dave Larson, 1112 Mosaic Drive. As I started out the last time I spoke, I've attended meetings over 10 years on this topic. There's been 300 pages of information put on the Celebration website about this topic. And I've reviewed all the Facebook pages as of this afternoon. And unfortunately, those Facebook pages are filled with attacks, misrepresentations, and factual errors. I've been in your shoes. I was chairman of a committee in another town to develop a master plan for 40 acres that the town owns. We did that, and the same thing happened in that process is happening tonight. At the very last minute, a whole bunch of people showed up who had never participated in any meeting, provided any input, show up to oppose it. And so my committee asked me, well, what do we do now? We've got all these comments. Don't know these people who never showed up. What should we do? So I said, let's look at those comments and sort out what's real, what's a fact, and what is just, unsupported opinion. So I did that in this case. So the first point I'd like to make is Facebook does add value to all homeowners. It's really not true. Second, in the past week, a lot of alternatives have been proposed to Live B. Let's do Live B, let's do the tennis courts, put stripes on them, take care of that. In fact, all of those options have been analyzed over the last 10 years, 12 different sites, and they just don't work. If you want info on Live B, look at the Celebration Hall report, the various issues with Live B and why it really is hard to actually anything. So third point, cost. The costs on the website are wildly inflated. Pickleball did not cost $2 million. It didn't cost $1.4 million. It costs a relatively small amount of that. The rest of the cost is fixing the swamp land we bought from Disney, 12 years ago. So it's kind of a red herring to say pickleball's going to cost all this money. We need to fix that property anyway. And finally, financial point, we can afford to do this. We can afford to fix 8051. We can afford to build out 851. We can do a community center. This does not impact our ability to continue to improve the maintenance in Celebration. So in short, in my opinion, it's time to move forward. You guys have done the analysis over a decade. You've looked at many, many options. We can afford to do this. To me, it's really time to move on. Let's move forward tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Pete Thompson, come on down. Pete, oh, there we are.
I'll try not to take 3 minutes. Keith Thompson, 12 up.
Used your time.
I'll let you reset. I know it's too fast, but Keith Thompson, 1201 Celebration Avenue. I'm just here because I'm actually sad to be here because of the division in the community. And I actually have to be honest, I think this board and previous boards bear the responsibility for that. I think the problem is we don't have a true master plan, and we should have, and that should identify what gets put where. Misinformation, there's misinformation on both sides. Lot B is not unsuitable, it's just not suitable for the way that they desire it, as in double stacked, I think was the expression. You know, this was a presentation that the board made in 2021, talks about the top 13 priorities. Pickleball's number 8. We had community centre 2, performing arts 3, senior centre adult 4, indoor gym 5, splash pads, everything else. But yet, at the end of 2019, for whatever reason, the board decided to focus on 3 priorities: Artisan Park Playground, lawn sports, and pickleball. Everybody should have what they have, but the priority should be based on this, not on different interpretations of this or different versions of this. And we shouldn't have little asterisks that say these are the most important for the people that actually showed up to everything, because this was a survey. This was across 20 people, more than 20 people that showed up. This should be what we're going by. This should be the blueprint. I don't think anybody is against pickleball. Personally, I'd love to try the sport as well. But there's other things that the community as a whole decided they wanted. They should be the priority, not rushing through with something. And to say we've got enough money to fix the 851 and do this and do that, I haven't seen a repair cost yet. I haven't seen a build-out cost for the 851. So all you're doing is perpetuating more false information. That's not true. We just need facts. And this is not the time to make a decision on Lot D and take away that potential for an amenity that the community as a whole decided was infinitely more important than pickleball. That's all. Thanks.
Next person. Nick.
Nick Fertig, 337 Celebration Boulevard. I am super not comfortable doing this, so thank you for allowing me to speak. This is definitely not something that I would like to be doing right now. I have a beautiful daughter and a beautiful wife, and I'd 1000% much rather be spending time with them. Nevertheless, I wanted to comment on something that I've heard a lot lately. I'm going to paraphrase, but the phrase has been, we've come too far to turn back now. I don't understand that comment. It's not grounded in reality. That means that even if overwhelming evidence was presented to you, the board, you wouldn't even reconsider anything. And I believe overwhelming evidence to either alter the plan, change the plan, or cancel the plan has been presented a million times over. But when I hear we've come too far to turn back now, that means the fingers are in the ear like my little girl does, and she's not listening. It's a temper tantrum. It's spite. It's bad. We shouldn't go down that route. I also don't understand because everyone here, I believe, is intelligent. And I don't think anyone runs their personal life this way. And I'll give you an example. Buying a house is a lot of work. You have to give all your bank accounts. You have to tour it. You have to schedule someone to go and look through it. You have to have the appraisal. You have to have the wind mitigation. You have to do a million things to buy a house. Now, if it comes time to close and the appraisal comes back $100,000 less than you have to pay, and the home inspection comes back and you have $100,000 of work, I'm not turning to my wife and saying, darling, we've come too far to turn back now. And you know why? Because I have a responsibility to my family. I have a responsibility to not enter into a completely irresponsible situation. And yet, I feel that's what we're supposed to do right now, or that's what we're planning to do right now. We're getting ready to spend $400,000 on a sunshade. $400,000 on a sunshade for this project. Okay? Let that sink in. The rest of the community is falling apart. It is. Take a look around. It's bad out there. I don't know if we're too afraid of letting a group of people down. I don't know if we're too afraid to admit we got it wrong. I don't know. All I know is what is being proposed is inherently wrong. And I hope that you realize that it's not too late and the correct choice for the community is made tonight. Thank you.
Jim, no. Jim, no. Come
I'm
on.
gonna be really boring because I don't really care about pickleball when we're here. 2293 Celebration Boulevard. I'm here representing the residents of Island Village. A couple things. The fitness center opened toward the end of March. The pool opened the beginning of April. We still don't have signs for age restrictions in the fitness center. I don't know why. It's been a month, but we've had multiple kids come in, and there's nothing we can do about it. The common room. I have seen at least 30 people try and get in there, including 3 people forcefully trying to open those doors. If we would just have this room for reservation only, a sign, I think it would stop that, because we continue to have Operation residents come down there and try and open those doors. Last Saturday at the pool was a disaster. There were at least 20 people, non-celebration residents, that were let in. It was packed. 3 parties were going on. Kids were running all through the plants. They took those chairs that are in that shallow area. They were using them as surfboards, or trying to. They were using them as flotation devices. Parents don't seem to care. I don't understand that. But I think some signs about you shouldn't walk through the plants. Chairs are only for seats. It might be helpful. One resident has inquired whether there's any plans for umbrellas at the pool, because there are umbrellas at every other pool in Celebration. So we would like to know about that. I do think it would be helpful if summer's coming to put something in the Friday flag, because part of this Saturday pool thing, people brought in water balloons, teenagers playing football in the pool. It was pretty rough. But again, the parents didn't seem to care. Common room is going to be discussed later. I don't know if the grills are, but some people have inquired about the grills. So hopefully that will be discussed when we discuss the rates for the common. And the internet's not set up yet, as far as I know. People have been asking about that. The additional cameras for the fitness center and additional cameras for the pool area would be helpful to keep things under control. And the last but not least, mosquito spraying. A lot of people have come up to me and asked, when can we get mosquito spraying done in Island Village? I don't know who we asked for that, but that's my final thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's not more. That was the bill.
The next person is it Sarah Work at 2303 Celebration Boulevard? And while she's coming up, folks that are standing in the back, there's some seats up here if you want to sit down, because it's probably going to be a long meeting. You're more than welcome to. We don't bite, really.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Work, 2303 Celebration Boulevard. My son said, this is our 3rd pickleball meeting. I said, you are going to play baseball today if it doesn't rain. So he's playing baseball and mommy's here. I just wanted to say, it's the 3rd one I've been to. I think what I've noticed is a lot of people that I speak to, I obviously don't speak to everyone, but the people that I do speak to, whenever I mention there's a pickleball meeting, because everyone knows there's a pickleball meeting, it's what's been dubbed, people say, I'll come. They're just going to discuss it, right? Nothing's going to really happen, right? You should probably come because everything has been progressing, and it has been the same type of reasons given in terms of we've come too far. We are just exploring. With my business background, some costs are just that. Some costs, you just say, thank you, we tried, we're not doing it. Scrap it. With regard to a lot of information has been posted lately on Facebook. While I was getting my oil change today, I was just looking around, reading everything, catching up. But what I noticed is that there's never been a quantifiable list of who is actually in support of this project from the pickleball team that's been meeting for 10 years, I think is what I heard. I looked on the website, there's nothing really documented. So I was sitting there waiting to get my oil changed, and I thought, let's take a look at this petition. The petition has over 500 people who've signed it by now. Take a look at the petition. What do we have on there? Doesn't take much to reconcile that name, the names on that list, to the Osceola County property taxes. Who's paying property taxes? Who's a homeowner? Who's a homeowner on this list? Now, Lexus worked faster than I did, and I only got up to line 300. Okay, 300 out of what's now 504. 504, I only got to 300. Some people have already worked on some of the ones below. I would venture to guess, if I had more time, at least 80% of those names are good. At least right now. Some are blanks, some are initials. People, if you sign a petition, please use your real name. Nicknames are great, but no one can do that, reconcile. So I'm just saying that while it looks like a lot of people are in favor of something because evidently our meeting schedule for CROA is publicized more widely than people expected. Just because you come and wear a t-shirt or you look a little athletic doesn't necessarily mean that you're here to support pickleball. So just from someone who's a silent observer who actually looked at some numbers and names today, there is support for perhaps terminating the effort to pursue pickleball on Lot D. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay.
I don't want to interrupt. I just want to make sure that my audio is working.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Wait, I hear you. You're welcome. That was Jerry. Okay. Next we have Steve Northbridge, 1130 Tapestry. Steve.
I'm Steve North at 1130 Tapestry Drive. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the Lot D project. There's a lot of talk regarding the need to build a community center. What would that look like? We go back to the 2015 and 2020 Facilities and Parks Master Plan. Prior to the acquisition of Lot D, architect Jeffrey Moen suggested a community center on the lot behind the library, which subsequently became the home for the dog park. The footprint of the building that surrounds suggested by the architect was about 90 feet wide by 125 feet deep, or 36,000 square feet. Fast forward to January 2018, during the time of the athletic field after Lot D was acquired, engineering and planning firm Hanson Walters and Associates suggested a community center positioned adjacent to the CCD building on Lot D. The footprint of the building that surrounds suggested by Hanson and Walters was about 250 feet wide, 150 feet deep, or 37,500 square feet. Nearly the same size suggested by Jeffrey Moen in 2015 and 2020 master plan. The undeveloped portion of Lot D is about 740 feet wide by 150 feet deep. The current Lot D project proposal includes a new parking lot with 140 feet of road frontage, or about 19% of the lot, pickleball with 200 feet of road frontage with 27% of the lot, and an open field with 400 feet of road frontage or 54% of the lot. If the community center is built on the 400-foot wide open field previously mentioned, consistent with the 2015-20 master plan and the Hanson Walters drawing, the community center would have 250 feet of road frontage or 34% of the lot. Even 150 feet of road frontage or 20% of the lot for parking, in addition to the existing parking near the concession building and the new parking lot contemplated in the Lot D project plan. The bottom line is the community center, pickleball, and Lot D are not mutually exclusive. Further, the site work and drainage, which amount to close to $700,000 the Lot D project, will provide a pad-ready site that would be required by the community center or whatever is built there. If the board decides to proceed with the CCD bonding for the community center, the 400-foot wide, 150-foot deep community center and associated parking lot parcel on Lot D be partitioned off. If approved by community vote, could be transferred to CCDD to enable funding through a government bond. This allows the community center bonding and the proposal for the proposed Lot D project to proceed independently. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Joanne Eckhoff, did you mean to check the box? I can't quite tell. No, okay. Moving on. Clint Searcy. Oh, there you are. Hello.
How are you?
Good.
I'm going to apologize in advance. I can't stay after I speak. I've got family in town, but I want to say a little bit about myself and service to the community, just so you kind of know where I'm coming from. I've lived here 24 years. I've coached kids, a lot of your kids, baseball, soccer, football, flag football, basketball, lacrosse, you name it. I've served on the rec committee 2 years when we first started it with my friend Dory Moyer. And I'm currently the chairman of the rec committee now. We had our meeting earlier this week. I get a lot of information. People see stuff on Hot Topics, especially, recreation related, and they email me. Not a big social media person. Matter of fact, I hate it. But I've been forwarded a lot of garbage. And I wanted to dispel some of that. But first, I think I want to thank you guys for serving. I know what it takes. We had our meeting this week. It takes time away from your family. I get a packet from management that I got to study all this stuff before I get there so I can speak to it. And then people call you in the middle of the night and want to talk about tennis, So I get it. And I thank you all very much, especially the new teammates. But I want to kind of dispel something. Hey Siri, what's the fastest growing sport in the United States? So up comes a Forbes study that says pickleball. Okay, so I challenge you, if you don't believe me, just ask Siri, when you get home. So, but the reason I came tonight, again this week, we were here this week, away from my family, is because I see so many people that don't sit in these chairs, who don't study this information, who just show up at the last minute after we've done all this work and all these studies. I can't tell you how many maps we looked at trying to find places to put things. Pickleball is loud. Nobody wants it right by their house. It needs to be in a corridor like this, right? So it makes total sense. So my challenge to you guys is, we have worked on this for a decade. Back when we did the first survey, you know what one of the most popular things was? It was dog parks. I don't own a dog. I don't dislike dogs, but I don't own one. I thought about it, I went home, I came back to the next meeting and I said, you know what, guys? That I own a dog, $1.4 million or whatever it was to do that dog park, it's expensive. But this is celebration. Do it. Do it right. Spend the money, let's get it done. We have the money for this project. We spent countless hours in these seats looking at it. There's a huge number of people that support it, and it is the fastest growing sport in the United States. I think we should do it. And I challenge y'all for a unanimous vote, so this is done. It's just done.
Okay, next is Tim Zelmansky. Tim.
No, I'm sorry, Clint left. I'm Tim Zelmansky, 7970 Shadows, but the outgoing rec committee said that pickleball should go on lot B. So why aren't we following that, putting on lot B? Why are we taking the list of priorities that Mr. Thompson showed and putting pickleball above them on lot D? If lot D is really the only buildable space, then lot D should have the higher priority items. If pickleball isn't the higher priority item, then it shouldn't go there. It should go somewhere else. And if you can't find a spot for it, then maybe it doesn't go anywhere. I think that it should go somewhere. It's a great sport. A lot of people love it here. But should it go above what the wants of most families here in town are? There are many surveys out there and many reports and a lot of backlash against the sport, and that's too bad. I'm sorry about that. But this project belongs on lot B, and find a way to put it there. It doesn't belong on lot D. Lot D is a bigger envelope. It should have a big footprint item like a community center. CCDD has reached out the olive branch to help build it. Steve is designing it for us, but Danny Bumpus was here a week ago and said it wouldn't fit on lot D. So I'm confused there too. So to me, go off and design it, make it work. But why would I want pickleball next to that center? Why wouldn't I want splash pads or playground areas for kids to play where the parents are. Should I put lot B be pickleball and then lot D be community center and splash pads and playgrounds? That would make more sense, wouldn't it? So I challenge you to not go ahead with this. Follow what the original master plan had, which was put pickleball on lot B, put a community center on lot D, design it, get it to all work, get with CCDD, and let's make it happen. We can make it happen today. If you looked at really the way you guys are operating, you're saying, I don't want to take the money from CCDD. I want to save. I want to save and then spend. So right now, we're a bunch of teenagers with $1,000 going to go buy the 75 Monte Carlo instead of saving and going and buying the nicer car, the Honda Accord. Right now, you'd say, I'm going to save for $10 million and buy a community center. Why do that? Take the money from CCDD, build them both now, make everybody happy, end this madness, end the stupidity, and let's just do the right thing. Thank you.
There is no way I'm going to be able to pronounce this name correctly. So the young lady who lives at 1243 Roycroft Avenue, please come up. And I'm assuming it's a lady, I might be wrong.
You know, I'm gonna disappoint.
Okay, I'm sorry. I told you I was gonna screw. Come on.
Lady,
Come on.
some dear-old guy, but I'm gonna yield my time for now.
Oh, you have, no?
No.
Okay, okay. No, all right, you may not get a chance to speak. Okay, thank you. And I apologize for calling you a sheep.
I've been called good.
Okay. Me too, me too. Okay, Joanne, 1013 Nash Drive. Oh, Joanna, sorry.
My name is Joanna Abby Newman. I'm at 1013 Nash Drive. I'm a 5-year resident, 3-year homeowner. Like most new people, I came to Celebration because I loved it, right? And so what happens as a young adult, you want to get involved in your community. And one of those ways is to run for CROA. It was recommended to me that I run for CROA because a lot of decisions are made by CROA. So I ran in 2022 with Charles and Alina. We were kind of running together, but essentially what ended up happening is Pickleball ended up sending an email to their pickleball people that said I was anti-pickleball and not to vote for me. First of all, no one from pickleball talked to me. I never said anything about pickleball. I love working out. I work out every single day. And I love engagement of the community. That's why I created the Celebration Giving community. We have 2.2 thousand members. And you create friendships and everything else. That's a thriving community. Pickleball on Lot D, taking that land, I don't think that's a very wise decision. So I am just coming here to share my personal story. I felt attacked. I dropped out of the race. I came to Lauren crying and said, I'm dropping out of the race. Simply because of that email. I don't want to be involved in politics of pickleball, but to be told I pickleball without talking to me, without knowing me, without even putting my last name correctly on the email, it's very offensive, and I don't appreciate it. I would love to still run for CROA, but I would love for this pickleball fiasco to be put behind us. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Joanna. Next, we have Chris, who lives at 806 Deer Woods Road. Notice I didn't try to decide if you were a guy or a girl.
That's okay. I should have put Christina.
That's her.
Hi, I'm Chris Elijah. I'm at 806 Deer Woods Road. And I just want to say I'm not against pickleball. Again, like a lot of my predecessors have already said, that they think it's a great sport. And it's wonderful for everybody to be active. So I didn't necessarily have a speech, but just a lot of questions that I would like to have answered or would hope to be answered. First, if so many residents are opposed to pickleball, which, you know, a majority of my exposure to this is on social media. I do have a little one, so who's in 5 activities, so I don't have a lot of extra time. So I depend on that, and I think a lot of other parents do too who have small children. So in observation of the social media post, why wouldn't there be a homeowner survey taking place if it seems like there's such opposition to it? Especially as Sarah mentioned, over 500 people took the time to sign a petition. And also mentioned before that there are factual errors on social media. So why wouldn't we as a community or our CROA board members clarify that misinformation before anything proceeds? Why are so many court? And this may be where I'm not getting enough information. So I'm sure that'll be clarified later this evening. Why is lobbying not an option? As mentioned before, it's hard or difficult to develop, and why use the last lot on celebration for a specific group rather than something that we can use as a community as a whole? As our CROA board members and a community, are we satisfied with our amenities? I'm not. You know, looking at the current amenities and of course comparing to Island Village, I mean, it's shameful. The state of our pools, you know, it needs to be brought up to speed before we advance to bringing any other new amenities at all. Community center, pickleball, whatever. The other amenities need to be brought up to standard before we proceed with anything else. And what is so pressing about building the pickleball courts that not more time could be spent on maybe looking for a compromise, such as building on Lot B if it's capable of being built upon? Why is that not an option? So obviously there's enough interest in the community that it seems that maybe a little more thought should be put into it. And at this time, I don't feel like anything should be built until our current amenities are brought up to the standards that they should be at. Thank you.
Next up is Linda Camarillo.
I really, really hate public talking, so please.
You're amongst friends, please.
Excuse me. I echo everybody who has said that they would like you to hold on. I echo Smitty, Tim, the lady who was just up here. I don't think it's something that we need to invest in right now, especially on Lot D. I think that there are things that we need to bring up to standards, and Linda Camarillo at 315 Grand Manual. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Oh. Brian. From Exquisite Lawn Care. Are you an owner, Brian?
Exquisite.
Are you talking about pickleball?
I had a question about irrigation.
Oh, okay. You passed the sniff test.
Brian Causey, Exquisite Lawn Care. For those residents that have lived here for about 10 years or more, you may have remembered going out to your irrigation clock and trying to turn it on in the morning and it not coming on. And then about 10 o'clock in the morning, you would have access to that water. Somewhere along the lines, that stopped. And everyone in Celebration has access to their water all times of the day, Monday through Monday, right? It really needs to go back to the way it was. Part of the problems we've had with this drought in particular, especially on Tuesdays and Friday mornings, I don't know why those two. I think because Celebration Place has been more developed and that's part of that cycle that runs on there. And there's just too much on that run there. That attached with West Village, East Village, Artisan, all the other villages, draws too much water from the pressure. Now, the story I've been told from ECDD Enterprise is that Toho Water Authority sends the water into Celebration. Because we've been in a drought, they have not sent as much water. This affects the pressure. ECDD or CCDD, one or the other, or whatever, which Celebration has pumps that can increase this pressure. But when there's not that volume, it decreases the pressure when more than what are supposed to be running water run at the same time. My question would be, is it possible to look into why this system stopped of being able to isolate the different villages on those days? And can it be reinstated? And the reason I say that is if everyone watered on their 2 days, they're going to have a healthier, stronger landscape. And that healthier, stronger landscape will be able to sustain drought periods. But if you water every single day, and some people multiple times a day, you're making the grass dependent upon that much water. So as soon as it lacks just a little bit of water, it's going to go brown very quickly. Too much water is just as devastating as too little water. So if we could check into that, I don't know who. So.
We can certainly do that, but it's not us, as you know.
I thought it was.
Yeah, we can follow up on that because I didn't even know that they changed that. So thank you for all that information.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, next up, Mark Falcone.
Yep.
Okay.
Good evening. These past few meetings have been, a lot of energy, a lot of tension between pickleball and everything else. But one word I hear a lot is community. And as a community, I feel there's one important thing that's really missing. It's not the shiny star or shiny object like pickleball. This is something more basic, but more important that impacts the values of our homes, and that's health and safety. I'm a lender, mortgage lender, did home loans for 30 years. I deal with homeowners associations that get involved in litigation. Property values drop because of litigation because lenders don't want to lend on it. I see a ticking time bomb here. I brought it up last meeting. I don't know if it's ever going to get addressed until it's too late, but I need you guys to really think hard about it. Maybe put a committee, some oversight. But we are negligent as a community, not putting up warning signs. As Disney, they got slapped a big lawsuit. They had the danger sign about theaters, little kid was eating. That was something so easy to avoid. We're just as guilty about missing some things. I live in Spring Lake. I go along the path along the lake all the time. I don't see any signs that say no electric vehicles. Kids are going 20, 30, 40 miles an hour. People on bikes don't have bells. Someone's going to get run into and there's going to be a big lawsuit. At the pools, I don't see a lot of rules that talks about parties. I live in one of the units right across from the pool. At 10, 11 o'clock at night, a bunch of kids are in the pool partying. Access to this area should be shut down when closing time hits or prior to. Well, you guys need to do a little CYA before you even talk to an attorney. Think about what are some of the things you can put in place to prevent bad things from happening. Pickleball is great. We get involved in litigation, they last for years. And it's going to impact property values big time. You wish like hell you guys did something earlier. Not you guys as the board, but the community. The community needs to get together and say, what can we do to make it safer downtown? Just a side thing. I don't know what the heck's going on with the theater there. I've been here for a year now. People talk about really this, really that, nothing happens. But I see, just the sidewalks raising. People could trip all the time. That's a lawyer's dream. In areas where it's dangerous, someone could trip. I have it spray painted fluorescent color so someone can see it, not trip and sue. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing the next name on this list literally brings tears to my eyes. Mr. Eric Opegard, will you come forward, please? My old buddy, Eric.
I'd like to tell you that I missed these meetings, but I don't. So I'm actually here tonight. Eric Opegard, 1126 Mosaic Drive. I've been here for a while. I'm actually here as a proxy for my neighbor across the street because he was unable to be here because it's his daughter's birthday. It's Andrew. He actually started the petition online. He wanted to speak tonight. He apologizes that he was not able to be here. Happy birthday, Kylo, whichever camera I'm looking at. So the following comments, he just asked me to share on his behalf. On Monday, he started a petition for the Celebration homeowners against the Lot D project. In less than 3 days, over 450 homeowners signed that petition. For comparison, in the 2019 Master Plan Resident Survey, 769 homeowners responded. The equivalent of close to homeowners are against the current Lot D project proposal tonight, and that number continues to grow. Tonight's Lot D project vote is not about whether you are for or against pickleball, but what is in the best interest of Celebration today per the master plan and financially. We currently have unknown and outstanding expenses tied to Heritage Hall and the 851 building. We do not know the additional costs associated with island facilities. We do not know what the final cost would be for this project, as no project comes in at or under budget. And the bid amount is never the final cost. Vote no, not because you're against pickleball, but in favor of your fiduciary responsibility in maintaining the solvency and liquidity of funds until these unknown costs become finite. You can tell Hugh of this, not meaning he uses big words. I want to thank the board and various committees and volunteers for the work done to get to this point. Some think that we are too far down the road to turn back or stop. According to Nelson Mandela, it's never too late to do the right thing. Do the right thing and vote no to all Lot D project options tonight, not because they are bad, but because this proposal does not align with the majority of homeowners' preference and is financially irresponsible to start new construction when unknown expenses will be needed on current assets. Thank you. So that ends Andrew's portion. I have 1 minute and 11 seconds left.
I know you're not gonna let that go.
Not gonna let that go at all. So I like what you've done with the place since I've been here. One thing that I would mention and remind the board is, I had been on some pretty contentious things before in the past when we had come in and voted. And there is another option always, and that is to table the vote to a future meeting. I know no one's happy about that whenever that happens, because we discuss things ad nauseum. And yes, full house rooms are a rarity for CROA board meetings, especially when we're approving things like, urinal repair, which apparently needs to be done. So get on that. So other than that, thank you guys for being out here. I know it's not good. And thank you everyone for showing up for the meeting. Come on out. They are fun, but if you run for CROA too, it's a ride. So.
Yeah, I personally know we show them how old their kids are now.
Oh no, my kids are about up to here now. So I got 7 and 4. So
he used to come to the meetings with one of them strapped to his belly when he was on the board. So thanks, Eric. Pawn shop.
Hello, good evening, Pasha Tech Gary, 1226 Roycroft Avenue. Here again, another meeting speaking on the Lot D project. And I just want to thank Brian from Exquisite and the gentleman in the blue shirt. I'm sorry I didn't get your name, but your name? Mark. They bring up very valid points that here we are spending all our time discussing the Lot D project when there's so many other things that we should be discussing, that we should be doing, like the signs for the Gators or the NEBs. There's so many other things that need to be worked on, but yet here we are week after week discussing the Lot D project. It needs to be tabled. The community doesn't want this. It's not that they don't want pickleball. Everyone wants pickleball. Everyone's pretty much on that. They're like, pickleball is great, and we know how it changes people's lives. Okay, it's great. Let's do it, but let's think about it. Do it on Lot D. That's been brought up. You guys need to listen to the community. Because I'll tell you what, it's already in motion that if this vote passes, there's going to be a referendum. And it's going to go to a vote, and it's going to be stopped that way. So how much more work do you want us to do? Because we're going to go to these lengths to stop this. You can stop it now, or we can keep going. Thank you.
Next up is Christopher French. Christopher?
Hello, I'm Christopher from 269 Golden Rain Drive.
You restart the clock? Yeah. Hang on. You want to make sure you get your whole 3 minutes?
There we go. I've lost 3 already. I did come here inspired by the conversations about pickleball. I am not a pickleball player. I'm not a basketball player. I'm not any real sport of mention aside from casually tennis. However, I do know there's a lot of interest in pickleball in this community and a lot of noise being made in social mechanisms. The thing I want to remind everybody, though, is that social media and representations in the moment can often be extrapolated, and that we should be looking at real data. We know how many people are homeowners in this community. We know in 2020 it was about 12,000. I've been in this community in and out since 2011 as a renter and owner. And I think we should be looking at those actual homeowners and standing renters with leases and surveying, find out what the actual interest is for pickleball or community center. If the interest in spending this money on Lot D, Lot B, or any other potential development projects are worth the doing, if they're the community members, or if we should be looking at other things. Many people have mentioned upkeep and bringing this neighborhood back to a standard. And I agree with that. We are falling behind, and that's natural. This place has been here starting development in 94, and a lot of these places are over 20 years old now. And we're looking at wear and tear. And so to bring that stuff to standard, the homeowners bring their standards up, the community development districts bring their standards up. We hold the business owners and the business management in downtown to a standard to make sure these buildings are kept safe and healthy to habitate. And things that are abandoned that are kind of a drag on the community, like the theater, are taken care of, even if it takes some sort of legal interaction to start working towards that. Use this facility where it needs to be removed as the stain that it is on this community. Because right now we know that there's water damage in that building. We know that it's not being used. We know that there's companies not interested in using it because of the cost benefit for it. I remember when we saw Deathly Hallows Part 1. That was the last movie I think that was played there. And we saw that movie in that theater, in the left theater. I would love to see that used for this community again in any capacity, either a business or something that people, their kids, their families can go and visit, can do something in. I would like to see that sort of stuff be taken priority instead of a sport that, yes, does have a lot of local interest, but still only has an insignificant interest in the actual community, at least as the numbers are presented. And if we survey it and we find the interest is much higher, then we could reassess. But we should reassess it with the numbers being factually determined on homeownership and active lease agreements from renters. The last question I'll leave everybody with here is, of the 7-8 people, in the interest of transparency, I just ask for a show of hands that say who is a pickleball player. And that's all. Thank you all.
Thank you. This is the last one on our list, but I am aware that people snuck in the back door after we started the meeting.
Cindy, there's someone online.
Well, hold that thought. If there's anybody that came in late, you're more than welcome, but for now, we'll take somebody online.
And there's 5 empty chairs up here if anybody wants to.
Shayna Stahl, you have your hand up. Shayna?
Yes, hello, that's me. Shall I start my camera? I don't know.
Depends, do you have curlers in?
Yeah, basically, I'm in my workout clothes and I'm at home.
Okay. Ready when you are.
Okay, sure. And I just wanted to say that, you know, a lot of people like me, I have young kids. I'm home with my 7-year-old and my 1-year-old. I can't make it to meetings. I think that's very common in our community that is family oriented. And so, you know, a lot of people can't come to the meetings. This one is extremely important. That's why you're seeing more people here now. It's 2023. Social media is the best and easiest way for neighbors to connect. So I'm not sure why there's such a debate over whether it's valid or not. I mean, that's where people can talk and can communicate. People can't come to these meetings. Regarding the Lot D project, I think it should be very clear to everyone that the idea of, you know, there being anti-pickleball people is a false narrative. People aren't anti-pickleball, they want pickleball, they want it on Lot B where it should go. And so nobody's ever been able to come forward with a reasonable explanation of why the pickleball people refuse to agree to say, hey, that sounds great, let's put our pickleball on Lot B. it's raised a lot of eyebrows in the community. People are looking into it. The things that make sense are that there's something else going on, whether somebody is getting money for this, whether there are people, they're expecting non-residents to be able to use it. And I think that people are motivated enough that they're going to find out what those reasons are. Like someone already said, I think it should be clear that anybody on the board today should not vote in favor of this project because of the overwhelming community opposition. And if they do, I think the referendum idea is probably going to happen. It's pickleball on Lot D is likely not going to happen as quickly as it could happen on Lot B. And if it ends up happening, people will be looking at where the money is going. Are there non-residents who are able to teach there? Are there non-residents who are playing there and providing profit for other individuals? How is that related to anyone on the board or any of their family or friends? So I think that it would be, I'm very concerned that there's going to be a lot of problems for people on the board who end up voting yes today. And breaching their fiduciary duty to the community that is here and letting you know that this is not an appropriate thing to do right now. So thank you.
Clay Hackett, your hand is up. Clay, can you hear us?
Hi, it's actually Alina Hyrule, and I'm sorry, I'm using my husband's computer, 722 Oak Shadows Road. I can turn on my camera too, so you guys can see that. Okay, good. So you guys have seen all the comments online. There's a new one that only came out 3 minutes ago from an anonymous source that has provided some data on how many people actually attended the pickleball sessions today. So that's the data I wanted to share with you guys tonight because, you know, just saying that it's the fastest growing sport in the US is slightly misleading. So why don't we look at the data of who actually played? So today there was 10 players for the whole day. Those 10 players joined the morning session and nobody joined the afternoon session. So, and it is only April. It's not as hot as it's going to be in the summertime. So those numbers will vary. That is why I think it's a little bit too early to take up all of Lot D. And yes, not all of it is going to be in pickleball, but to put a parking lot and pickleball on Lot D when we can just put pickleball on Lot B, boy, instead. And save some space and save some money because we can't buy any more land. There is no more land to purchase. This is it. We have tapped the land resources and we actually, frankly, don't have the money to buy any more land. So why would we spend what we have on this? Why not be smart and use up a little bit less land so that we can actually have leftovers for whatever else we
Did you stop talking because we can't hear you? Hello. Okay.
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. Maybe she'll come back and she's got a minute left. In the meantime, is there anybody else online? Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, I got here early and signed up to speak, but I think I got missed. I'm Sharon Scheidhauer. I live at 232 Longview Avenue. And so good evening. I'm a Celebration homeowner. I've lived here for 14 years. My husband and I have still raising 4 children here. And I came tonight to voice my opposition to using Lot D Bill 8 pickleball courts. I'm fine with pickleball. It sounds fun. Never played. But I'm glad we have residents who enjoy it so much and feel so strongly about it. And I definitely agree that Celebration needs more and updated amenities to keep our community attractive and current and as a first choice for people to live. However, you knew there was a however. My serious concern is the size and scope of this project to serve a small, albeit very organized and vocal interest group. So I'm asking that the board work for all the people of Celebration and to find a solution that best serves the broader public interest. But the great news, great news, is that we have a credible and attractive compromise to this situation. That's the very recent offer from CCDD to partner with CROA in the development of community amenities and recreation assets, specifically developing Lot D for a multi-purpose community center. And the resident survey that's been referenced gives you hard data that this is what the majority of Celebration residents want, because this is something we can all get behind and work together on. As I understand it, Lot D is the only parcel of land left that is large enough to accommodate a community center. And I'm asking the board to just reserve Lot D for the time being, as you and CCD can explore broader use of that land and reconsider pickleball on a smaller but still very workable Lot B. This compromise would result in a multi-purpose community center that would serve the entire community. We still build some pretty great pickleball courts on Lot B. It's a win-win. And instead of pitting neighbors against neighbors and board members against board members, it's something we could focus our collective energies on and all be really proud of. This plan, which I realize would require more studies and proposal, and everybody's sick of that. It's been 10 years, I understand. It's worth it to get this right. We have to get it right. We only have one chance to get it right. So I ask that you vote no tonight. And a no, Cecilia and Bill, is not saying no to pickleball, and your constituents who support it. It's still a yes to pickleball. It's just right-sized pickleball. Right-sized pickleball. Building an amenity appropriate to the number of residents that it would serve. And it's a yes to using funds that you've been entrusted with to build an amenity that everybody in town would be so excited about and appreciate for decades to come. So thank you for your consideration on that. Yeah. Did you say your name was Sharon Haynes? No, I have a much more difficult last name than Sharon Haynes. Sharon Scheidhauer. I came in at like,
I don't see here. I apologize.
Maybe a page is missing. I don't know.
Uh-oh.
But thank you for hearing me nonetheless.
Of course. Thank you so much. I'm sorry.
Signed in on the appeal.
Oh, you were here very early. I bet you signed in on the appeal for the appeals meeting.
All right.
Okay. Sorry.
You waived any fines you had.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else that may have come in late that would like to say something? One more? Come on down.
Stuck in traffic. Mark Maturo, 747 Oak Shadows Road. A 10-year resident with my wife, my 6-year-old son, that just missed pizza and baseball. To come here. Pickleball is fine. I do think it should be on Lot B. A little bit of background on myself. I'm an architect, 29 years of planning and design. I'm a principal of a nationwide architecture firm. So certainly familiar with the building process. What I'm concerned about is if it does go forward on Lot B, that all the plots are actually represented and that fairly compared. Of course, there was only one other bid. I went through everything. What I couldn't see was the full set of drawings. So I saw the civil drawings. It was mentioned earlier about sunshades. I'm not sure why we have 12 sunshades. The bids weren't broken down by division. You could not see what the individual items were in the documents that are reviewed online. I hope that the bids that you did receive from the contractor have full breakdowns. You can see their overhead and profit, what the individual costs of each item actually is, so they can fairly evaluate if you have the scope complete. There was lots of exclusions in the bids that came back. They were talking about tree removal not being included, the irrigation not necessarily being included, other scope things. So what I'm concerned about is what is the budget that you're approving and does it really cover everything and make sure that it does. But I do not think we need the sheer amount of shade structures. That's still part of it. There's a lot of space for those 15 feet by 50 feet wide times 2. It's excessive for the number of people who are going to be there. What else? Anyway, I hope you got more complete numbers. I don't know what the architectural plans look like, what the landscape plans look like, but I hope that the budget actually is okay. I do think that all of it can fit on Lot B. That's where I think it should go. I do think a community center is appropriate on Lot B. There's a few other things about the layout of the 2 parking lots, the new one and the old one not connecting, that I thought was a little bit odd. Everybody gets into oops, you instead of actually just connecting along the bottom and actually get the same number of spaces. So I just don't feel like it's fully cooked. Obviously, you had just two people that ended up bidding on it, two companies. That is too bad that more people are interested in get that in today's market. Please make sure that you have full breakdowns of it and that you can really judge the individual items and pull out things that aren't necessarily necessary. We consider putting it on lot B, 6 courts fit. I'm sure you could have everything else here. I do not think we need such a large facility to host tournaments and things that are meant for residents. I don't think it should be something that's for the greater world. So that's my concern, is make sure we're building something for residents here. I don't think that's correct use of money with the overall program of this. Anyway.
Thank you. One more, we got. Just in the nick of time.
Thank you. Sorry, I was shy in the back thinking in my head. My name is Nicole Dickon. I live at 1103 Rosemary Way with my fiance, Jeremy Sasachi. Since we moved here a little over a year ago, we've just heard so much back and forth arguing about pickleball, should we not? And it's been the #1 thing that we've heard since we've moved here. And I don't know if that's how it goes with every new thing that comes. I certainly hope not, but I think it's just been a really sad thing. And I would hate to see anything in our community start off with tension and argument and such. I mean, there is passion on both sides, but I think when you can see that there's so many people who are against it or just not in agreement of the way that we're going about it, that there is cause to reconsider to see if there's some way to find a compromise and some way to find a way to make all people happy. And something that I've realized a lot since I've moved here is that my fiance works a lot of night shifts. I work until 6 or 7 a lot. I travel for work. Tomorrow morning, I fly out at 4 a.m. Instead of being packing at home, I am here. But I feel like that's important because if I'm not here, I'm not going to be heard. And there has to be a better way of finding a way to get the full picture of what everybody in this community wants, and not just the people who have the time to show up on 6 o'clock, because it is really hard for people who work, people who commute. I'm adjusting to a work life where I have to go back to the office. I'm no longer working from home. And I know a lot of other people have multiple other factors. They have people they have to care for. And so I love to ask you guys to find a way to find the big picture of what everybody in this community is looking for, because I know that there are a lot of people who feel passionate in both directions. And like so many people have said already, there has to be a way to come to some sort of a compromise where we can appease the majority of the community. Thank you guys. And I know it's a long evening, so thank you all too for being here.
Thank you. Okay.
We do have one more online.
Quick compromise. I don't know about how everyone feels about the lack of parking space in this community, but if we're able to build a 2-3 story garage.
Yeah,
with
good
the
luck with the
pickleball courts
celebration
on top,
company. With Disney on that. But thank you, that's a great idea. We have one more person online, did I hear?
Yeah, one more person online. It looks like 2 more in person.
Okay. Let's go the online person. Cynthia Hutton.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I live at 1220 Roycroft Drive. I have written 3 emails directly to the CROA board. I've read through all of CROA's financials. I've read through the Lot B versus Lot D. So I've really sort of made my decisions by informing myself and not necessarily listening to public opinion. I believe, and I would like to ask you all, given that you have a fiduciary obligation, a financial obligation, as well as an obligation to represent the residents of Celebration, if you would kindly table the Lot D vote tonight and seek a survey that will represent what it is that is in the interest of the current Celebration homeowners, and then be able to move forward from that. It's not helpful to take past data as a reflection of what the community is today. It has evolved. And so tonight I would ask you to withhold your vote and not vote on Lot D until we all have a better understanding and we have better information as to what is in the best interest of all the Celebration residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thanks for waiting. Okay, 2 more and then we're done.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, first of all, for serving. I know that being on the board is a thankless job, so thank you for that. I will not waste your time. I just wanted to state that whether we decide to go down the road of pickleball or something else, I hope that as a community, we can do and spend the money wisely and not cut corners to appease people who are not pickleball or pro pickleball or whatever goes there. As someone who has raised 2 children and will continue to raise the children, I sometimes see us cut corners to appease someone else and say, well, oh, we're not going to spend money, so we'll do this. And whatever goes into that lie, I hope that we do it correctly. And that's my only thing with whether it's drainage. I saw us cut corners. I have no kids that play soccer, and I feel like the soccer fields are somewhat of a mess. The drainage wasn't done. We cut corners there. I have no dog in the dog park, but that was done beautifully. We didn't cut corners. So whatever goes onto Lot D, whether it is pickleball, a rec field, or a putt-putt, I don't care. But as a resident, I would like to see it done to the best of our ability and to live up to the standards of this community so that we are not here 2 or 3 years down the road talking about drainage problems, talking about not enough parking, talking about umpteen things. So please, whatever you do decide to put there, I trust that you will do that in the best of the community, but please, let's do it correctly. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Miss Dory Moyer.
Yes, I'm Dory Moyer. I've lived here for 20 years. I've lived here for 20 years. I've served on the Park and Rec Committee. I don't think I've missed more than 1 meeting when my brother died for 19 years. I've served Park and Rec, special events. Dog Park was all one committee. It got so big, we split up to 3. I served on all 3 of those committees at the same time. I also came to almost every single one of the CROA meetings when I was available, and usually I missed very few. I am stunned. I am stunned at the amount of ill information, the information that's out there. I am not and have never been on Facebook. I do not read Facebook. Occasionally people send some things to me on Facebook. I do all my own research. People sometimes call me the notebook queen because I do all my own homework. I study about pickleball. What was stated tonight about pickleball, the Park and Rec, Pick B, that's not true. That is not true. Originally it was going to go on Lot 1. Then it was going to go on Lot D and then B. Not only have I served on that, I was taken off last year at Parks and Rec to serve with a couple gentlemen right over here. Extremely smart guys. We spent hours and hours and hours and hours and produced a 65-page manual. Read it. Lot B does not work for pickleball. We don't know. I'm on special events. I don't want pickleball necessarily on D. Parks and Rec committee compromised. You know why? And I was on 2 committees at the same time. So I knew what was going on. Our special events, anybody attend the meeting recently? 3,000 people showed up 2 weekends ago. We didn't have enough parking. You know where the majority of our parking is? Lot D. One of our cornerstones is community. You know what community is? You know how many people, and there's a gentleman sitting over there that I remember saying he came here to this community and he went home, sold his house, came back and moved here. A lot of it's about special events. That's where you meet your neighbors. That's where you volunteer. I always say, you want to meet your neighbors? Volunteer. That's how I've met so many of you. And the fact of the matter is, you can't put a facility, you can't put a rec center there. We need it for parking. Do you want to go to the concerts? We cannot accommodate more than 700. And the gentleman over here went out and counted every parking spot. 800 downtown. We no longer have any more downtown.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Dory.
All I'm saying is, get your facts before you talk.
Thank you, Dory. Down our agenda. Okay. Do I have a?
We didn't even start yet.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
I'll motion.
Okay, I would like to amend the agenda to include now information that we got just recently from Artisan Park. For those of you who are not familiar, Artisan Park kindly does their own thing, but if they're looking to spend reserve funds, then it must also go through our board. So there's a proposal that we were all handed today when we came in to ratify the Artisan Park landscaping upgrade. And that they're talking about the big field across from the clubhouse. So I would like to amend the agenda to include that. Anybody else have anything?
Looking at number 16 on the action required, would it make sense to move that to number 1, considering it is 7:15?
We'll have a whole.
Yeah.
You get the committees and.
I would support that.
Okay, what Charles is suggesting that we move action item number 16, which is the polybid for lot D, to number 1 on the action item because of the time.
What happens to the rest of the agenda?
The rest of the agenda stays intact. We just move.
Okay,
Number
so
16
you're just, you're not
promoting number
assuming.
16 to 1 and demoting everything else.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I was hoping you weren't suggesting it for
On
anything
the-
else. Because... Okay, so
On the Artisan
Charles is
Park
asking.
topic,
Yes, sir.
on the Artisan Park topic, I have not received this document that we're discussing. So is that something?
Lauren's sending it to you. Lauren's sending it to you. Let us know if you don't get it, okay, Jared?
Thanks, Lauren. Your screen is.
I'm
Okay.
moving it out. Okay. All right, so Charles would also like to move number 16 to the forefront. So it become number 1 under action required. And then we may as well stick Artisan right underneath that since we're moving things around. If that's okay with everybody.
Really? Sorry, where are we putting that on the agenda?
2.
Number 2.
Yeah, just so some of us don't forget it.
15 is revised 1. Revised 2.
So 16 is now number 1, Artisan's number 2, and then we go into the original 1, 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? Okay, so,
So moved.
okay. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, approval of minutes from March 21st and also the meeting that was held on March 27th. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
And we're doing these both at once? Who'd the second go? Was that you, Jim, or was that Charles?
That's Charles.
Actually, I'm going to draw off the second because I wasn't here for that.
Oh, okay.
I will replace his second.
Okay. All right. So, in that case, do we want to split them since Charles is going to abstain? Okay. So let's go with the original.
He's going to abstain from both. So
He's going to abstain from both? Oh.
Well, I was here for the emergency meeting, but I'll abstain from.
You're going to abstain from both?
321 meeting.
Who made the motion on A?
Bill or.
Bill and Jim.
Bill made the motion. I seconded it.
I withdrew my second on it.
Okay, so that's A. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, now let's go to the B meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Celia? Second?
I'll second that one.
Okay. And Charles abstained from the first because he wasn't here. So we've got a motion from Celia, second from Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. March financials.
All right, Jennifer's on vacation, so I'm gonna do this really quickly. Your balance sheets right now, you've got 2 million.
Can you bring? Yeah.
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 got a little over $2 million in your operating fund. You've got 1.8 million in your reserve fund and 3.3 million in your capital improvement fund. The only thing notable in your financials were you were billed $5,900 for water out in Island Village that was not yours. We've made ECDD aware of it. You will be getting a refund this month. And the largest impact to your budget was the unbudgeted $195,000 remediation bill here at Town Hall. And that's really what's pushing you over budget at this point for this point in the year. Okay.
So that was 509,000.
No, $5,900.
5,900. And that adds to being over budget, the actuals being over budget, and that's going to be reversed. But will we be if that was reversed now, would the budget and
your water budget would be in line? Yeah.
But overall, no.
Overall, no, because you have this $195,000 remediation budget for 851.
But that will be balanced out, just not this month.
Correct. Any other questions for Lauren on the March financials?
Could you put up the totals, the bottom lines?
Of the fund balance?
I think she did.
Yeah, fund balances. I think I got confused on this. So the first, can you down to the bottom, please?
For those of you who don't know, Bill is our treasurer.
The first column, the 2,608,000 is the operating budget. The next is the 1,810,000 is for, it's a reserve and it can only be used to repair, basically major repairs, not maintenance repairs. And the 3,385,000 is funded by the sales of homes. It does not come out of anybody's fees, and that's the money that's used for anything new that gets built.
Thank you for that explanation, Bill.
Question?
Question. Oh, okay.
I would just like to reiterate the fact that the capital improvements can be used for operating expenses as well. We have the ability to do that. So it's not like it's locked in for a new amenity. Thank you.
I have a question for Bill. So the upkeep of our community, all of that to bring us to community standards, where does that money come from?
It comes from the fees.
The upkeep, it comes from the reserves or the capital?
Reserves. It depends what you're going to do, Celia. If we decide we want to put an addition on to this building.
No, not an addition. I'm talking about the upkeep of the community.
Yeah.
Comes out of reserves, not out of capital.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Not
Or
Small things.
small things. I'm talking
Come out of
about
operating.
maintenance.
Maintenance. Small maintenance comes out of operating.
Thank you.
That comes out of the 2,600,000.
Looking to renovate a pool, things
Right.
of that nature, that will be reserved.
Fix the bathroom in Island Village.
Correct, that.
Thank you. That doesn't come out of that.
In North Village,
The North Village.
like, like partial renovations, all that
Comes out of,
reserves.
doesn't come out of capital.
No.
Thank you.
I have a question. So, and you may not have this right, the capital fund from last year, January through March. So if you look apples to apples from last year to this year, are we having kind of comparable growth in the capital fund, or has the housing market, I guess, slowed down that growth? And can we extrapolate, I guess, for the rest of the year? Are we confident what the capital fund is going to look like?
I'm getting confirmation from Amy that it's very similar, because I know you had asked that question earlier, and I had asked her to look at that.
And the finance committees looked at that as well.
Okay.
And we also have 300 apartments going up in Island Village that's going to bring in.
Recreation fees.
That goes into operating.
Right.
That goes into capital.
Apartment fees go into operating.
That goes into rec.
Are they split?
No. No.
Goes into operating.
Okay.
And then we pay rec.
I'll make sure everything's clear.
Okay, any other questions about the financials? Okay. Committee partner updates.
Can we do that? Should we, or why don't we just skip that in the interest of time? Is that okay with everybody?
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted comments on the CCDD meeting, just because the things that impact us.
Okay, okay.
One is the board did pass the GoGov initiative, so they are starting with that. Also, they reiterated what they said in the Wednesday joint meeting, which was the bond, which a lot of people have already commented on. When we had the meeting on last Wednesday, it was just Greg who kind of put that forward. What they made clear in the CCD meeting, that there is a majority of board members that are in support of that. They didn't take an actual vote, but that was the emphasis. Thank you.
Did they explain how the bond works?
No.
Because they have two different choices under state statute as to how they're going to do it. But the bonds are public money because they're a quasi-public government agency. We must use the bonds on public property. So if they were to build anything, or we were to build anything with their bonds, we need to deed the land over to CCDD.
Correct.
And then it becomes a county.
Right, but it's focused on residents in Celebration, and you can charge for non-resident.
So I think it was also an invitation to discuss. We didn't, right, there was not necessarily like,
yeah,
it was just more so.
Just to, yeah,
Right.
reiterate what they said at the workshop.
Right, so we can get into kind of the mechanics of what.
The point is,
it was just.
It needs to be paid back somehow.
Right.
Who pays back?
Greg didn't say.
We do.
Through our tax dollars.
Over 20 years.
Through our tax dollars.
Okay, through CCDD, correct.
Right.
And where does CCD get their money?
From us, I think.
From taxes, our taxes.
Yeah.
So any way you look at it, we'll be paying them back.
And if they charge fees, we will pay what we're presently getting for free.
And any way you look at it, it will open it up to all the Osceola County.
That's not completely correct.
I think it's too early in this, it's too early in the discussion with the CDD to make any assumptions other than the things that are backed, like you mentioned out of the statute.
I can have one thought. It's still a good option,
Gotcha.
but it's a loan, and any kind of loan would have to be evaluated against other options. And
Right,
a loan
and
is
it's
a big
early in
deal.
the proposal, but there's a lot of social media commenting on what a great thing that the CCD is going to do by making this proposal. Well, if they were gonna do such a great thing, why didn't they offer this proposal last year before we spent almost $200,000 on the drawings and everything? And sorry, it's gonna open it up to the community.
No. Okay, so I'm gonna stop this discussion because it's gonna bleed into our action item, because I can tell it's already doing it. So thank you for that, Jim, bringing us up to date. Okay, next are the action items. Oh, I thought you were going, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Or quick, or I thought you were gonna bring it up later.
No, while we're here.
Okay.
Speaking on behalf of Kathleen Scipio, who could not be here, brief, because we like the two other agencies in the community to speak. They recently had a volunteer appreciation breakfast, provided complimentary tickets for CROA volunteers for the concert last week. That concert last week wrapped up their season. They've already announced 2 new concerts for next year. One is the Brianna Voice Choir, February 9th, and holiday concert on December 15th. Celebration Lifelong ad wrapped up this past week, and volunteer instructors, if you want to teach something. Shredding event is sold out. It's a good thing. And community grants.
I can't bring my stuff, Seven?
If you signed up, yes. Community grants were given to the high school recently. And then the foundation scholarship is going to be Lawnside South for 15 seniors who each received a $1,000 scholarship. So a lot of good things happening from the foundation, and that was Kathleen speaking. Engagement.
Okay, now we're moving on to our consent agenda. There are 14 items. These have to do with pretty much regular maintenance, small ticket items that we have chosen to lump together and approve all at one time. We've all looked at the information that goes on with this, so there's no surprises. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Just one comment.
Okay.
One is not an expense. One is an approval of a turnover of 3 buildings at Island Village.
That's yes.
So, but it's more routine because we've been through this many times before.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is clarification.
Okay, so motion by Jim, second by David. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No, okay, so motion carries. All right, now, we have changed the order of the agenda, so next up is going to be the motion for one of the 3 poly bid options to develop lot B. This is the
I motion
way,
to table the item.
Second.
all in favor? Any discussion? Well,
Discussion?
well, okay, discussion. No discussion?
I obviously, since I seconded it, I believe, as I did in February, that we should wait till we actually get data and numbers for 851 before we consider spending money out of the capital improvement fund.
Anybody else? Okay, call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
It's Jim and Jared. Anybody else?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. 4-3. Okay, so let's discuss.
Should we have a motion on the table so we can discuss?
I'd like to make a motion.
Before you do that, I was going to say, this is the way I would like to see it go.
Okay.
Okay, and as president, I can kind of give some guidance here. So this is what I would like to suggest. I would like to suggest
Don't we need a motion before there's a discussion?
Jared, please, just a minute.
Cindy.
Jim.
I'm
just
asking a
minute.
question on point of order.
I'm letting you know that you're getting worked up. So
Okay, all right, well, because I'm being interrupted and
I understand.
I'm hoping that we can avoid this. Okay. So,
Just because.
thank you. Well, I'm not going to be shouting over people. This is what I'm suggesting. Once the motion is made, we will, each of us will have an opportunity to make like an opening statement with no interruptions or questions from other board members or anything. After we're done making our opening statement, then I will ask Lauren if there's any questions that anybody had in the audience that did not get answered during the opening statements. After that, then we will open it for board discussion only. Okay, if you're here or online, the time for comments from the community is done. So that being said, is there someone who would like to go first, or how? And we have as much time as we want.
So we're not gonna.
So we're going to somebody make a motion.
Yeah, we need a
Somebody
motion.
needs to make a
second.
motion, so
And they
that you can do the commentary as the opening of your discussion, and then you can have additional.
So the motion-
I would like-
So we're motioning now.
You
I
need
would
to
like,
do another motion to continue the conversation.
I would like to make a motion to option 1, bid from Foley. And I would like to amend that to include lights. I think it's very important that if we're going to be spending this money from November until March, 5 o'clock, if pickleball courts are installed, they will not be able to be used because it will be dark out. So I would like to amend this motion on option number 1 to include lights.
I thought we did this before and there should have been something that had lights coming back to us.
You have numbers of what the lights would cost, but option 1 originally was without lights. You could add the
Right.
additional expenditure to include.
Yeah, but I thought we had an option that had lights.
So we have a motion though on the table, right? We need a second
Yeah,
now.
you need a
And we
second.
need to get the
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Celia made the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Who would like to go first? Nobody? I'll go. Okay. So, we had everyone speaking tonight for or against. I would just like to know, for the people that spoke about Lot D, does everyone know where Lot D is? Let's be clear, because some people were under the impression that pickleball was going to go behind Heritage, or people that I've spoken to didn't even know what was behind the library. I said, this is going on a vacant lot behind the library. Oh, I didn't know that. I don't know the difference between Lot B, and I don't know the difference between Lot D. So, just to get that clear, it's behind the library on a vacant lot. It's 112,500 square feet. The pickleball footprint on this site will only take 30,000 square feet. So it only takes up 27% of the space. A community center with a footprint of 30,000 square feet or 2 stories for 60,000 would leave 27% of the space, would also take 27% of the space on Lot D. With 54% of the space taken for these 2 projects, there would still be 46% of space remaining, approximately 51,000 feet. So I want a community center just as much as everybody else wants a community center, but I prefer our community center to be in the center of our community, in this building. For as many floors as we want it, we'll own it. But there's to say that we're doing something, money under the table, people are getting kickbacks, social media. I've gotten emails after emails of misinformation. Please do something with the trees. We're not responsible for the trees. Please do something with the ponds. We're not responsible for the ponds. Please do something with the trails. We're not responsible for the trails. Do something on the sidewalk where the side of Starbucks is. That's Lexington Street. Front Street is owned by Lexington. We're $600,000 in debt. These are emails that we've received against the Lot D project because people are misinformed. We're not $600,000 in debt. Island Village does have a beautiful amenity that we did not build. Streetlights built it to sell homes and sell apartments. The school tennis courts, we do not have access to, and the school district would not give us access to those, even if there was a gate on the outside. So that's misinformation. We don't want to pay for tennis courts if we can't use them during school hours. Tennis courts at Lakeside. Well, why don't you take 2 tennis courts at Lakeside and why don't you put pickleball on them? Okay. The only thing that will do, when I saw that, because nobody knows the drama like we do and Parks and Rec does on the group with tennis. 2 different groups at war with each other constantly. If anything, that would bring unity to those 2 groups, taking away their tennis courts. Now we have misinformation about Georgetown. Georgetown tennis courts that pickleball people play on are owned by the Georgetown residents condo association. If I still owned my condo and I played tennis, I'd be really pissed at the people playing pickleball because I wouldn't have access to my tennis courts that I pay for to live in those condos. So what we're finding out now on social media is, oh, the pickleball group's charging people $5 and $2. Yeah, because they have to pay to play on those courts. That's why they're charging.
So to say that there's loopholes, and if they want to charge people $100 a person to play on those courts at Georgetown, they're right. And for people to say, well, you're not allowed to disturb the staff there and everything, that's correct. Those courts belong to Georgetown residents, not to the community. We're not responsible for those tennis courts. We're not responsible for the insurance. It belongs to Georgetown Condo Association. Another false news out there. Second of all, we're not responsible for mosquitoes either. Okay? I don't appreciate getting threats myself. I don't appreciate getting ultimatums to myself. I've never, and I will say it again, lied to the community. We're not doing anything wrong. I haven't eaten. This morning, I was ready to resign from this board because of the hatred that is among some of us in the community and on our board. But I received an email from a resident that made me think, well, you went through and you have gone through hell and back. I'm going to read what he says, if I can. I'm sick of being called out on social media by Tim Zolnensky saying, do you want this to be your legacy in this community? My grandchildren are my legacy, not what goes on in this community. So, and I am sick of it. It's pathetic. We're not doing anything wrong. We're not selling our community to the devil. We're trying to make our community better. I can't read it right now. Do you want me to read it for you? And then we can move on? Yes, please. Okay. Read the green. Okay.
The data is quite clear. The trends, the demographics, the financials, and the benefit to our community at large are indisputable, regardless of the obvious bias of some and the unfortunate, visceral, unpleasant, and counterproductive social media campaign that some have chosen to use to propel forward misinformation and division among residents. The facts are the facts. The data is the data. And the facts and the data point squarely at this decision as a smart and appropriate one for the community at large. I am also a published author and recognized expert in leadership. I have 7 leadership books in my series of legacy leadership. So I understand something about what leaders must do and how they should operate. You have a tough job, and often you face very difficult circumstances and have to make tough decisions. Very often you have to do that despite the unfair attacks on you personally by some who prefer to argue their opinions rather than the facts. I know the feeling, and it can be very emotional and demanding on each of you. I want to encourage you to please stay strong and to try as best you can to set aside the politics, the bias, and the personal feelings, and base your decision on the facts and on what would be best for the majority of the residents. Permanent pickleball courts are simple, required, he missed a word here. Permanent pickleball courts are simple, a requirement for any community that wants to continue to be seen as a progressive, high-end, and attractive place to call home. Along with all the other great amenities that we proudly boast for our celebration, pickleball would be a cherry on top. If we were designing and building the town of Celebration today, would we not absolutely include pickleball courts in the master plan? The only honest answer to that question, pickleball is not a fad. There is likely no high-end new community being built anywhere in the United States that does not include pickleball courts in its plan, along with tennis, baseball, soccer, walking trails, and many other great amenities.
Thank you. Are you done? Would you like to go? I'm done, because we've talked about this since I've been on the board, April 9th, 2021, over and over again. There's no secret. It's been out there. tests everything. So I'm done talking.
Thank you. You're welcome. Who would like to be next? Crickets? I'll go. Gotta speak fast, guys. Okay. The cost of this project as presented is between 1.9 and 1.3 million, which is the cost to develop the entire lot, which covers, as Celia mentioned, 2.58 acres, so it becomes usable in the future. That includes fill, drainage, sidewalks, parking, sod, irrigation, electrical distribution, and other things of that nature, and yes, pickleball. However, the actual cost of the pickleball courts alone is only $169,387, plus any bells and whistles we decide to install, like lights, shade, and furniture. Now, because we've all been living and breathing this for, God, I don't know how long, I went the other day and I just Googled, how much does it cost to build a pickleball court? Because a lot of people are saying we're getting hosed, okay? This website that I found is called thepricer.org. It says the average cost to build a pickleball court would be between $22,000 and $45,000. If you multiply 22,000 by 8, you get 176,000. What we were proposed was 169. That's what the bid is. Then it goes on to say, for the high-end court, which I'm assuming is the $45,000 court, you're looking at more than $300,000. Oh, I multiplied 45,000 by 8. That comes to 360,000. What we're being quoted is slightly less than that. So to me, we're not getting those. But that's all I'll say about that. But I did some research just on my own, just Googled it. Okay, so once this process is complete, we can then add other amenities without the cost of preparing the land because it's already been done. For example, if we should decide to build a half-size basketball court, the cost would be anywhere between $8,600 and $38,000, depending on what was added. Again, this is just me Googling. Period. That's it, because everything else is, the ground's been leveled, there's electric running in there for lights, and that. So that would be a batting cage. Batting cage costs $22,000, and we're done. And I've got other things on the civic corridor there, if that's what we would choose to do. The balance in our capital expenditure account at the end of March was $3,008,000, which you've already heard. Even if we went with the highest estimate, which would include lights, shades, and furnishing, we'd still have about $2 million left in the CapEx fund. $2.5 million if we went with either of the lesser options for other projects, which could include building an indoor sports facility on Lot D and/or expanding town hall. Also, this is not the only vacant land that CROA owns, as some believe. We also own the property between the soccer fields, for those of you who have been out there, and Celebration Avenue, which would be way more costly to develop because of the restrictions that would be imposed by the Celebration Company. But early on, when we got gifted this land, there was a discussion with building a building there that would house the CROA staff, the CCDD staff, the foundation, maybe a little substation for the police. But that would have to be an iconic building. In other words, it couldn't be just a little square box with a couple. It would have to be where people would drive into town and say, "Oh, wow." Okay, so yeah, so that's that. But we do own another piece of property that we could develop in addition to Lot B that's on the civic corridor. My vote and recommendation would be to continue progress on Lot D and also repair the 851 building to its original state before the hurricane. This expense must be paid for with our operating and or reserve accounts for this building, depending on the nature of the construction. As of March 31st, we have a total of $4.4 million in those two accounts. Simultaneously, I suggest that we continue with the proposal for the development of Lot D, beginning with the pickleball courts. We polled the community to find out what defines a community center at this point in time. Does it include indoor sports courts? Does it include a gym? Does it include a game room with arcades and foosball and pool tables and things of that nature? We want additional multi-purpose meeting rooms for a greater variety of partner programs. The last plan that we did was in 2015. This is 8 years later. I'm sure that, things have changed to some degree, but everybody still wants a community center. Again, simultaneously, investigate the options to build out the 851 building. We already know we can go up and out to some degree. How much square footage can we gain and at what cost? Do that at the same time. Do some cosmetic improvements and repairs to our existing facilities, along with the landscaping and maintenance projects that are already underway, to give them a fresher, more contemporary look. And we are doing that now. I think the team has been focused on getting the landscaping in all of our parks. Again, we have 48 passive parks.
60 total park. 62.
Well, no, 48 passive parks and 62 if you count the big parks.
Correct.
Around the pools and things like that. So, they've all, we've had a new management company for just a little over a year, but that's what they've been concentrating on. I met with a resident the other day. He said, what about that big crack at the pool at Lakeside? So I followed up on it. That is on their radar. They're getting ready to do some major fixes to Lakeside Pool. When we had the meeting the other day, one the residents got up and also said something about fixing the amenities. And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, oh, the bathrooms and blah, blah, blah. That's something I wasn't even thinking about.
On the reserve study.
Well, but me, I would, because I don't use the pool. I wasn't even thinking about that. But how much would it cost to go in there and have somebody, start by cleaning it really good, putting a fresh coat of paint, maybe putting a cute little wallpaper border above the front with little fishes on it or, whatever. That stuff like that doesn't cost money. And it would, make things more pleasant for us to use. So also keep in mind that while this is all going on, we will continue to earn capital at the estimated rate of $1 million per year with interest, which further supports a pay-as-you-go scenario. I mentioned this before that our role as your directors is to preserve, protect, and enhance our property values by going forward with Lot D. And if we follow through with the path I just outlined or something similar, we will be doing just that. One final comment with regard to the CCD's offer. The letter clearly states the land in question would need to be transferred to the CCD for our board to issue the bonds. That means that we would have to turn the land over to the CCDD. Dick was a little bit mistaken when he spoke earlier. This parcel was not part of the land given to us by the Celebration Company. It belonged to the golf course. CROA paid $600,000 for Lot D, which was $150,000 over the value at that time, because the golf course was smart enough to say, well, you want it that bad? Then you're going to pay us $600,000, and we paid it. This would also mean that we would have to open the center to the rest of the county in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what that would look like. And we will have to pay back, likely in the form of additional property taxes. So everyone understands this is not free money that we are being offered. Nothing is free. And you know the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Now, am I saying that, we completely disregard that? Of course not, because we're going to be looking at all the options, and maybe, a little bit down the road, which is what I told Greg Thielek, the one who sent this letter. I think it's a little premature to go down that path right now, but it's certainly part of the bigger idea of what is a community center and where we put it. Celia is absolutely right as far as I'm concerned. If you want a community center, you'll want it in the center of the community, not over on the extended property line. So anyway, that's my time. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next. Pages. So, all right. I've tried to sit down and sort through how and what I wanted to say on really a divisive topic like this. And I was going to let it just flow organically. But I really was concerned I'd miss something and not tell a cohesive story. So I'm going to stick with what I wrote. First and foremost, all of this could have been avoided. Let's be clear. The failure is not with the pickleball task force or the recreation committee. It isn't with Grand Manners or CCMC. I realize this is going to sound crazy, but Keith said it best. The failure is on the board. It's an all too common scenario. We're quick to point fingers at our management company, our vendors, even members of the community. Amenities falling apart. That's CCMC's fault. Billing statements not arriving on time. Let's blame Grand Manners. Lot D project going off the rails. Let's blame the pickleball subject matter expert group. We have no one to blame but ourselves. We've cultivated this environment, this board, every board before us, and we keep letting it happen. So now we have a perfect example of another board failure, the Lot D project. What do we do with Lot D? If you support Lot D, you're pro pickleball. If you're anti Lot D, you're an enemy to the pickleball community. I really wish it were that simple. My position is not pro or anti pickleball. It isn't even pro following what the majority of people want. My position is pro doing the right thing, doing it with a sense of financial responsibility, proper due diligence, consideration of our resources, and making sure what we do is part of a larger vision. So let's start by examining the poly proposal. I don't see a lot of competition here. I don't see why more vendors weren't invited to participate, and mainly why these particular vendors were selected. We're basically awarding a contract to Poly by default. Beyond that, we've drastically and materially changed the scope of the project, yet we continue to negotiate with just one vendor. The market is dynamic. Projects start and projects end daily. Why wouldn't we put this back out on the market with a smaller scope and a larger vendor now? And maybe we do look at Lot B again. Isn't that why we hired Kellogg? Be consultative and try to find a good path for this project. When you dig into the proposal, it is alarmingly thin and devoid of serious detail to support such a costly decision. We know absolutely nothing about Poly based on the 15-page proposal they submitted. Some people say experience matters. Where's the experience for this project? Lauren, can you bring up the list of questions from today, if you don't mind? I think it's important to enter this into the record. So there were 13 questions that we went back and asked Calic and Polly. And I think it's important to just have these brought up so that we can talk about these.
So it's not the rest.
Yeah, you're fine. Sorry, I caught you off guard. So there are a lot of gaps in this proposal, a lot of gaps in the RFP, and I think it's important that as part of the fiduciaries of the community, we ask questions, scrutinize information, and we make sure that we're making the best decision. Thank you. So I'm just going to read these. I'm going to try and paraphrase to the best of my ability. So can you provide an explanation as to how the initial network of vendors for the project were selected for receiving the RFP? Prospective bidders were approached and selected based off of Celebration SME's recommendations and Calic's research personal experience. Was the RFP made available to vendors initial 8? No. What were the specific reasons for the vendors to decline to quote? The main reason we received was that the vendors could not work within the schedule requested by Celebration as they already had work scheduled. We also had a vendor who withdrew their bid due to not being able to find subcontractors to participate in providing commitments to work. Why would it not be beneficial to put the RFP back out to market? The market conditions haven't changed drastically enough in the past 5 months to warrant expected changes in favor of budget. It is possible we will see similar responses to our initial RFP back in December. We'd be happy to put it back out to bid, but we're not sure we'd see different results. If there is no time constraint and CROA is okay with additional Calic feeding into the rebid, we have no objection. In Calic's experience, it's common for nearly all vendors to decline to quote and for just one vendor to submit a proposal. To clarify, we didn't have all vendors decline to quote. Of the initial bidders we solicited to, we had 3 express interest in bidding, Poly, Fatten, and Arno. Having approximately 1/3 of our solicited bidders engaged is not atypical of projects like this. Common best practices for an RFP are for the proposed vendor to for projects in similar size and scope to that being requested in the RFP. Please provide 5 references for poly, 3 for projects that went well, and 2 for projects with challenges. Please ensure at least 1 from each comparable to the Lot D project scope. We'll have to work on this, is the answer. Questionnaires are also common best practices for an RFP to evaluate the vendor's capabilities in market. Why was the questionnaire not prepared? A list of Poly's qualifications was requested as a section of the initial RFP to understand their capabilities as it pertains to commercial construction and to understand the proposed project team from Poly. Either CALIC or CROA members were familiar with the solicited bidders. We did not solicit vendors that we were completely unfamiliar with. Please outline all Poly projects completed over the last 24 months and currently contracted to be completed in the next 24 months. This may be difficult since they're under a lot of Disney work. Also, Poly may decide to walk if we start making late demands after all of the work they've completed in an attempt to reduce budget for CROA's benefit. How many pickleball projects has Poly completed? Uncertain, but the subcontractor has completed several. Poly's proposal indicates 100% of the work will be subcontracted. Is this Poly's standard model? Does Poly have in-house resources that can absorb some of this work to potentially offset some expense? Poly is acting as the general contractor of this project. It is common for a general contractor to subcontract to specific companies who specialize in certain areas such as low voltage electrical, grading, earth moving, concrete support services, etc. Let's ask Powell if they plan to use any in-house labor so that we can answer the question directly. Is it an industry norm to subcontract in this manner? Yes, this allows the general contractor to oversee construction efforts while having trade-specific subcontractors construct according to what their company excels in. Who is the core building subcontractor? Poly provided their core building subcontractor to be Sport Services LLC. What would be the impact if we reduced to 6 sports? It's hard to give firm numbers to the exact impact. There will be less material and labor involved, but the overall mobilization costs will still exist. I'm sure we have time to get this information from Poly. Again, this is a labor spot. That's a lot. We're asking this today during the vote right now. We did this a couple days ago. It's pretty odd that we had to ask this information, that this wasn't offered to us, in my opinion. I think there's value to putting it back up today. To not only ensure we're getting the best, to give us time to sort through the 851 costs, which to this point have been projected to cost no more than $500,000 based on suggestions. And I don't know where that number came from, but that's just what's been thrown out there. So what happens if it goes wrong? What happens if Lot D has a 20% overrun? What happens if we get other random surprise expenses associated with a community hitting 30 years? What happens with the Heritage Hall repairs? The argument has been made that we have all this money, and we can do all this stuff. About the data points in front of you. It's great that we have capital funds, but they're not guaranteed. Housing market has slowed down. Our goal should be stability during this period of time. Strong capital funds, find ways to pay as you go for projects. Lot D is a nice to have, if you want a must have. Let's talk strategy. Something I can't remember any CROA board talking about over the last several years. The fact that we're having this discussion about if it belongs on D or B is proof positive. We have no defined larger community strategy. Same thing with lawn sports at Heritage Hall. We go down a list of non-suitable locations, and then finally we pick a plot of land. We research, we bring in task forces, we bring in engineers, we bring in architects, and we spend countless money and management time. We do this all in a siloed approach. We don't look at our amenities holistically with the master plan as our goal. Pickleball, community center, basketball courts, community garden, everything else identified in the various master plans need to be mapped over a short and long-term period. We did a study back in 2014, and we disregarded it. And we're effectively doing the same thing with the low study. We need to look at small wins that don't deplete our capital and provide incremental progress toward the larger master plan goal. Then for the larger initiatives, let's talk about alternative funding partnerships with other entities and see if it at least makes some sense. That was a guiding principle in the low study. Affirmatively and aggressively embrace strategic partnerships. Not everything needs to be done by CROA. Maybe the CDD partnership won't work, but we owe it to the community to explore the. There have also been discussions about the state of disrepair of our amenities. If we're being honest, the Lot D project is a completely separate. We can build and maintain it and have funds for just that. But whatever we build, we have to maintain. We feel confident that we can maintain Lot D based on our track record. I think it's critical that any master plan discussions we have involve a reset of the maintenance review. I'm going to repeat what I said. This failure belongs exclusively to the board because we've empowered this to happen. We've cultivated this environment. We've chosen inconsistent and sometimes inaccurate data points and allowed others to write the narrative. We vilified anyone who couldn't go to meetings. We vilified anyone who posts on social media, and we don't take feedback. We keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. David Anderson, you said we have off-ramps for this project. We're not committed to anything until we pass today's vote. This is our last off-ramp. This is the last off-ramp. And frankly, if we move forward, we're going to face a dead end. We will have lost all credibility with the community. We will have said no thanks to cursory discussions with a community partner who could potentially help realize our strategic goals. We will have put the association in potential financial jeopardy with an uncertain economy and several needed expenses of the pipeline. I'm choosing to use this last off-ramp. I will be voting no on Lot D. I don't believe this proposal is in the best interest of the association or consistent with our fiduciary obligations. What I believe is in the best interest of the association and consistent with our obligations is not going back to the drawing board. Let's leverage the important work that's been done to this point and make pickleball part of a larger master plan. Let's get a true cross-functional team together of members of the community and our partners like CDD and build a timeline and plan. Let's not research and research and research and research. Let's get it done in the next 60 to 90 days and present it to the community for input. I believe the vote is an inflection point for the board and community. Residents are becoming engaged and active, and we're finally starting to build positive relationships with our partners. Nothing we have done to this point is beyond repair. I urge my colleagues at this table to please consider the gravity of this vote and the consequences of any missteps.
Thank you, Charles. Next.
I'll speak next.
Bill beat you. Bill, you want to yield to Jared or?
No, go ahead.
Sure.
But Jared, you go because you were delayed because of the video thing.
Okay. Mine is quick. I don't have a lot to say. I don't have a prepared statement because this vote to me is not about my opinion at all. This vote is about what the majority of the community wants and how I am representing that here. It is my belief that a majority of our community does not want this project to continue, and so my vote will be no. I do believe that there are other members on this board that are making other decisions based on how people feel on this. So I do encourage people to say for the committee section, because there are some people who are suggesting that some people shouldn't be on committees based on their opinions on and their actions towards pickleball, positive or negative. So with that said, I will be voting no.
Thank you, Jared. You only want to go now? Did you change your mind?
No, I didn't change my mind.
Okay.
A couple of things. One is, I keep hearing about,
They'll talk about it for
sorry, I keep hearing that the majority of the community doesn't want pickleball. I know that there's a good number of people that do want pickleball. I have difficulty understanding how 500 people signing a petition against pickleball represents a community of 4,363 homeowners. That's a rather small percentage, so I don't know that it's interesting and important, but not necessarily representative. As far as Calyx responses, they're typical and common. That is how this construction work is done. I've been involved in hundreds of millions of dollars of construction. General contractors bid it. The subs do the work. Whether Calyx is bid another pickleball court or not is not really relevant. They have a sub that's qualified and experienced. The bid process was good. People were reached out to. This is a very small project in the scheme of things. The fact that we had as many people responding as we did, which was not one. A number of other companies whittled their way out of it because the timelines didn't work. They couldn't get their subs on board. As far as the pickleball goes, I never heard of pickleball until 16 months ago. I don't play pickleball. I've seen it played a few times, but I do believe it's an amenity the town should have. I believe that the amenities have been focused more on children. If there's something else that grown-ups want to play, even though this is a multi-generational sport, I think that's a great thing. Saying that there's a small number of people that want to play pickleball, and I've heard, I don't follow the back porch or any of that internet communications, but saying that it's not representative, it's only 5% or 6%, we can make that argument about Little League. There's only 260 kids playing Little League, so should we not have Little League? Because it's not a percentage that satisfies some idealistic quota in the town. Same with tennis, same with soccer, same with the dog park. We have 500 hits a week on the dog park. I don't know if that's 250 dogs going twice a week or 500 dogs going once a week, but 500 owners, again, are a fairly small percentage of 4,300 owners. So we spend $800,000 for dogs to pee on, and it's representing a small percentage of the community. But that's the way it is. Everybody gets something here. And no matter how the vote goes tonight, half the people are going to be unhappy. That's sort of the way representative government works. People don't always get what they want. And the fact that some people think they're not getting what they want does not justify abusive behavior, insults. I find it insulting that anybody would hint that a board member would take a bribe. I can't say I would never take a bribe, but it would have a lot of zeros behind it. So unless somebody shows up with that, but it's insulting. It really is. Because I'm doing now what I did for a living a year ago. All these things, all these community meetings, all these construction things, or what I did for a living, probably $70 million of projects per year for over 20 years. So this is what I do. I think everything the board has done. People find it easy to go on the back porch and get their information fed to them. But a great deal of the information, the actual reality of, is on the town websites, and it's been there. It's not a surprise. People should read it, should understand it, come here with real questions. I heard tonight how we're not taking care of the sidewalks or the movie theater. The sidewalks we don't own the sidewalks downtown, and we don't own the movie theater. So we're not taking care of them. I'm sure Matt would like us to pay for them. But as far as the construction bidding, it's solid, it's good, it's appropriate, it's a good price. I wish there wasn't such anger coming off the back porch, which I would say you helped create, Charles, and which you're feeding continuously as we're doing this.
Have a personal attack.
It's not personal attack, it's a reality-based statement.
No, it was a personal attack. You called him out.
Well,
Let's stop that, please.
Then he should own it. Because I didn't make anything up here.
Let's stop that, please.
gentlemen,
Are you the only one that gets the personal attacks, Tim?
I'm just not responsible.
Okay. Well, you can say I'm out of order, but I've seen hundreds of emails. They're rather abusive, except for the half that aren't. So.
are you done?
I think so.
Okay, thank you. For now, anyway. Okay, we have David and Jim left. Who wants to be last? You'll be last?
I'll be last.
Okay.
You will? Can we like pull up arm wrestle or something?
He's bigger than you are.
I don't know. I think he might beat me, but I don't know. All right. A little bit of levity there, but this is a very serious topic. I think a lot of you know I have a good sense of humor. I'm not going to use it on any of the points that I made. This is a very, very serious topic. So let me start by reiterating what some of the people have said who've come up for comments, but I think it's really, really important. And Charles alluded to this as well. This is not, are you for or against pickleball? It is not that. Okay. This is, do you think spending $1.5 million to get 8 courts, and that is the driving factor behind doing the Lot D project. Do you think it's a fiscally responsible thing to do? I am happy that people are involved. I know some people have misinformation, but they still have the right to say their opinion, give their opinions, and send things to us. And it's not up to us to discount people based upon some tangential mistake that they make in terms of information. Talked about 10 years pickleball. If I remember right from some discussion, I think the dog park was talked about for 20 years. But that's not it. It's not how long it's been talked about. It's when did we see that it was going to cost $2 million. Now we cut the scope to $1.5 million. And that was at the end of February. So we're now just 2 months from that. We're with a new board, and I think we should table this until we know other things. A couple other things about the project itself. In February, I called to talk to someone about pickleball courts because I didn't know a lot about building them. They specialize in pickleball courts. I've talked to them a number of times since then. These are not good courts. These are asphalt courts. Asphalt. I think everyone knows what happened with the basketball courts that are asphalt. We say we want the best, and we're getting asphalt with acrylic paint on it. Doesn't make sense to me. We have a suggestion by others on the board that we may create a war between the tennis aficionados and the pickleball. I'm guessing there's some overlap there, number one. Number two, we're not here to make any particular resident happy, right? If you call them interest groups, happy or not happy. We're here to look at fiscal decisions and make them in a way that is focused on not how people will react, but what is best for the community. The last thing I want to do, actually, since I am a liaison to CCDD, and I did talk about it, and there are many questions that have come up around the CCDD offer, how they would do it, things like that. I'd like to call up Greg Bilak to address some of those personally.
No, board comments only.
Yep. This is,
Board comments only.
this proposal of his is not off the table, no matter what we do. But to bring him up now.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
It will be off the table.
No, it won't be because.
How can you, he's right here. Why don't we?
Then you should have spoken when everybody else was speaking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Jim, but this is CROA business.
I will yield to the board's decision.
Thank you.
But I do think it's important that we hear from Greg. We heard from Greg on our joint meeting. And I think a lot of talk about misinformation. We're guessing about a lot of stuff. We're putting a lot of things, opinions in as facts. And I'll just end it there and say I will be voting no.
Thanks, Jim. Last but not least, Mr. Anderson, who has been involved in this for a long time.
Thank you. I want to talk about 988. Suicide hotline. Oh, did I bring the wrong script? I want to talk about the health of our community. And we heard someone earlier talk about the health of our community. We can talk about physical health and emotional health. And our 988, I just came back from Washington because I'm on a national advisory board on drug and alcohol abuse prevention, one of a dozen people in the nation. We jointly met with mental health people and women's rights and Native Americans and treatment. And they're driven by data. 988 is only a year and a half old, and it plays an important role. And I think that's important for us to remember. As background, and I referenced the last 2 days that I was involved in Washington, it's good process. Very good process, and it's very data-driven. And the assistant secretary for our nation in Health and Human Services talking about, we need to hear from you. We hear from the public. On the first meeting I was in, there were 2 public comments. 2. The second meeting I was in, 1 public comment. We have a lot more comments. I'm going to quote what Charles said early on in a different meeting. We're an HOA. Just remember, we're an HOA. So, but I've always believed in good process. Good process. I believe in engaged personnel and engaged audiences, and I believe in grounded decisions. And I believe that the board should operate at a policy level, high level. I believe that we hire specialists to do the work. That's why we hired Grand Manners a year and a half ago. And they hire other specialists to oversee some of the additional specialty work that gets done. As a member of this board, as I've heard every member of this current board say and previous boards, we want what's best for the community. We really do want that. And we want progress, we want improvement. And we're seeing that with Grand Manners. Yeah, there's issues. There will always be issues. But we rely on good information. We rely on facts. We rely on good sources. To make good decisions, we need good people, and we need ethical people. We need to make our decisions with respect. That's what's about health. That is health. And we need to respect different points of view for our community, for one another, and for the process. And as a volunteer who's devoted hundreds, probably thousands of hours for this community, I'm very disappointed and saddened with what's happening. I echo a lot of the anger. I'm looking at Dory. We may come out differently on this, but I'm very saddened by what I'm hearing and reading. Yes, I look at social media. Nobody on my Facebook site knows that I'm even on this board because I do not post anything about that. I'm disgusted. I wonder how long I will stay in my term. I'm disgusted by the presence of misinformation and by those who promulgate misinformation. Whether they know it or not, they're promulgating misinformation because people believe them, and that's just not fair. It's not fair to the rest of us. Much of it is fueled by social media. It's not a valid source for for sound information in so many ways. It's connections, but it's not a valid source. When people talk about voting on social media, it reminds me of a newsletter. When I lived in Northern Virginia, there was a newsletter for involved with drugs and alcohol. And so they subscribed to this newsletter, and then they did a survey in it. And they posted the results representative of all families in Northern Virginia. You can see the faulty logic there. The Lowe study was done well because it was a sample of 100% of the homeowners. Everyone had an equal opportunity to voice their opinion. It's not social media, that is science. I'm annoyed with statements that this process has been rushed. It has not been rushed. I don't know if it was Bill or you, but someone pointed out a lot of the information, the solid information, is on our website. I see deflection and big promises happening. People are gobbling it up. It's too good to be true. It's probably too good to be true. I resent bullying and last-minute promises and new ideas. At the last minute. At the last minute. All of this is just coming out. We've been talking about this for years, at least 3 years. With such an
open and long process. Where were these ideas and discussions 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago? No, because we put off the vote till we had a new board. We didn't rush it like a previous board I was on. When I was in my first year on this board, I felt a decision for the youth soccer fields was being rushed. I thought the finances were misrepresented. The consideration about the annual costs were not part of it, and that was part of our charter review. We now must do that. But we inherited what that board did. $300,000 a year. I see our community getting divided. The comment about the joint meeting, sure, it was a joint meeting advertised with a public agenda from 6 to 8 p.m. in this room last week, I think it was. It's a blur. I'm sorry, it's a blur. I don't know where I am. I don't know where I am. It was advertised 6 to 8. I had commitments. I left at 8. We finished the published agenda, and then they went into discussion about this other stuff. That's not right. It might be legal, but it's not right and it's not fair. We've had a good process on the Lot D project. I hate hearing about the bold lies. It's sad. It makes me sad, and that's not what our community is about. One of our pillars is community. We have a beautiful community. I have been booed once in my life, once, and it was in this room, sitting in the same place. And when I voted against, because it was rushed, and I know why it was rushed, because that board was turning out that night. They wanted to get those youth soccer fields out there. And I was booed one time in my life. And there will be a divided vote. Someone said tonight, we hope we have consensus. Great, I do too. But if we have a divided vote, I would hate to hear booing again. I would not want to say that I was booed twice in my life. Once was enough. We've had a long and deliberate process. We've had several off-ramps. People have said, we know how 4 people are voting. No, you don't know how I'm voting, because I have never said publicly how I'm voting. Because it's always about an off-ramp, always waiting for the last set of data and the last pieces of information. So my vote won't be known until I vote. 2 previous boards have decided to proceed at the various pieces of information they have had. How this board will decide, to be determined. This is our last off-ramp. So for me, what drives my thinking is facts, logic, a sound process, and what's best for the community. And doing what's right is what's going to guide my decision. Thank you.
Lauren, did we miss anything? Did anybody ask a question during the comment period that we did not cover? So there is a question about why are the 2 parking lots not connected? And that decision, we tried to see if that would be a possibility to add the additional parking, but it would have meant moving a large distribution box that would have cost an exceedingly amount of money to just gain a couple of parking spaces. So the task force and Brian Kenzel as the liaison to that group made the decision to not proceed with that in I think it's the 30% drawing stage with KPMS. And the other question was about furnishings and shade structures. Those aren't included in the option 1 or option 2 and not in the motion. Those would be afterthoughts if we were to do this. Okay. Anybody else have anything, board members, something that you would like to rebut or add or?
Yeah, I would like to say it wasn't pushed forward to the new board. Decision was made in February to choose Polly. We didn't accept it as our bid, but that's what I asked for, and it was done. So just that's the only thing that I wanted to say.
That's fair.
I appreciate everything else you have to say.
That's fair. Thank you. Thank you. I have 2. Oh, sorry.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there were 2 things I just wanted to kind of direct to Chair Matter. So number 1, there was a comment about the finance manager saying that we have plenty of money to do this. Has Grand Manor's taken, so number one, has Grand Manor's taken a position on that? And then does Grand Manor's have a position on this, which I saw they didn't have a recommendation either way?
No, we don't, we
You're not
have not taken a position on the financials or on this project.
Okay, so that's inaccurate. That Grand Manor's has not said that we have plenty of money.
No.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a clarifying question for somebody. You said before about, because I'm just not getting it. You said something about awnings or because I see that. I see
Shade
that.
structures and furnish, it's in the furnishing item in the
Right.
in the breakout.
Right.
So that's not included in the option 1 numbers or the option 2 numbers.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah. So I was just clarifying, because there was a question to that point during owner's comment, so I was just addressing the question.
That's because it's in the core option. It's in the core, not the option.
That's one of the ways we were
We
able
reduced
to
it from
reduce.
2 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, got that.
On that same topic, somebody got up and said that we were gonna spend $400,000 on shade for those pickleball courts. I'm looking at the breakout in the high-end proposal, which, I don't know if I'm gonna go with that or not, but it's only 125. So I don't know where that 400,000, again, I don't know where that 400,000 came from. But that's pickleball shade and furnishing, so I imagine that would be the shade and any chairs or benches and.
Yeah, and just to be clear, a couple people mentioned the line item for pickleball. That's just for the court. Since there's pickleball court, these other things are going with the pickleball court. So they should be included in any evaluation. But as I said before, and I'll reiterate, the driving force behind doing something with Lot D is pickleball.
I have just another couple things that I wrote down money just now. Now I can't remember why I wrote that, but I'll come back to it. New board. I'm aware that there were some board members that wanted to postpone, voting or whatever beyond. You can't go changing directions every time a new board comes, because every new board comes with a mix of people with different ideas that were, and this is not, I'm not throwing shade on any of the newer folks, but maybe don't have all the information. I don't know why, and I was a newer folk a couple of years ago. I don't know why we discounted Lot B. Do you know, David? Or do you guys know what was the issue with Lot B?
I think it was I'm taking no comment.
Please.
I think it was based on size, based on the desired number of courts.
Well, the pickleball task force had recommended Lot D.
Yeah,
Pickleball doesn't recommend anything.
The pickleball task force recommended Lot D.
No.
We don't, it has no value, whatever they recommend.
No.
It's what we do.
Well,
But answering your question, when you look at the Celebration Hall report from last year, which Dory mentioned, it addresses each and every parcel in town and what the issues are associated with it. And when you get down to it, all your answers are there as to why you're here and not there. But as far as Lot B goes, it's got drainage issues, it's got pond issues. And when you back all of that out, you have 7/10 of 1 acre to build on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically the problem with it. It's too small, pickleball and parking. And that was really the simple answer.
So, and another way of saying that is what you see as Lot B, you can't use it all. You can't use it all.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think it might be a good size for something like basketball.
No, but you can't use it all. You have to have drainage and.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not all
It's not as
usable.
big as it looks.
Yeah, but, can I?
Right.
Sure. Go ahead.
I spoke with a company that's actually a general contractor as well, but they do specialize completely in courts, sport courts. Basically, they said 300 feet, you could fit 8. But again, someone mentioned this before. It wouldn't be like this and this. It would be 2, 4, 6, 8. And that's
So linear rather than.
Yeah. So it is a different configuration. And I agree that if we considered that, we'd have to do some more research around drainage, et cetera. But I was under the impression that most of that was dealt with when they built the dog park. I could be wrong.
Can I offer something? Sorry.
Can I just have a couple things real quick?
Sure.
As far as how long we've been talking about pickleball, the correct answer is 2010. I was here. I worked here. And I remember people coming, and it was one of those deals where they had paper, just like we did not too long ago, a piece of paper on the wall, and somebody put pickleball. And the other went, pickleball? What's pickleball? You know, but I mean, in 2010, there were people in this community that wanted pickleball. So I'm just saying that, you know, it's been around. Now I turned on my morning show one day last week, and they had one of their guys out there, he was in Texas, in a restaurant that had a pickleball court attached to it, like a bowling alley. So people could, play pickleball and then go in and have a sandwich or whatever. I went on a cruise in March, and guess what they offered twice a day? Pickleball. So I went up to see what it was. There's two couples playing, and I said, hi, where'd you learn how to play this? And he says, Miami. He says, but they're playing it everywhere. And I could tell by his accent that he wasn't, he probably learned it someplace else. And it's also now in Miami. So, I mean, it's I believe that it's the number one growing sport. So that's my thing on that. The other thing, when I was mentioning my thoughts about how this might work, where we can satisfy everybody. And, I do think that finding out from as many people as we can in this community what their vision is for a community center, and not assume, and it's not going to be done in 60 days, and it's not going to be done in 90 days, because we want a good sampling and then time to think about where we can, how we can maneuver and put all this stuff. I got all kinds of ideas, because like I said, I've been living and breathing this stuff for God knows how long. And we will, if we go forward and build pickleball courts, we still have, several people have said, we will still have room on the civic corridor to put something there. But maybe it's not the community center. Maybe that stays here. Maybe that's an indoor basketball court, or some kind of indoor sports court. Yeah, some kind of athletic something there. Yeah. And then, like I said, investigate this building. How much can we build out that way? How much can we build out this way? We can't put a second story on this part of the building without, knocking the whole thing down. But it's my understanding that the activities room, that's that far end there with a hard floor, that a second story could be put onto there, and we could extend the building so it comes out. So we'll take up some of that patio, okay, and then put 2 or 3 stories there, right? So we've got more space there for a community center here in the community. And like I said, maybe that has, maybe a gym goes out there in the civic corridor, because the 2 gyms that we own are kind of like on this side. Maybe part of that is a gym. But, this is to do it right. And I think we all want to do it right. We don't want to rush to any kind of judgment. We have money. We can start slowly while we're looking at, all these things. There's all these moving pieces, and we can keep gathering information, do the low-hanging fruit, systematically, like maybe, the bathrooms, kind of freshen those up. Maybe do something with the original, the plan in 2015 called for grills at one of the smaller parks, maybe do that. I think that plan called for things, and we already know that people in this community don't want anything built on their lots around them. So that's going to make it difficult, but I'm sure there's some things that people, like grills. And who's going to complain about a grill other than maybe, there's too many people in their park?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can we Point of order, since we have much business left, can we just focus on lot D instead of other things?
Well, but I'm talking about
Maybe.
that we still can't put the building on lot D if we choose to. So
Okay.
I'm done.
All right.
Can I say something, please?
Charles with no.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, it's just quick. So I want to go back to the lot B discussion, and I'm reading this verbatim because we're talking about misinformation, right? About grant managers recommending that we have enough money, which is categorically and unequivocally inaccurate. So the engineering study of lot B, as prompted by the Recreation Committee recommendation, indicates that sufficient depth can be obtained by economically reconfiguring the retention pond, and lot B may be reconsidered.
Into the door.
We've been told lot B was not recommended by Parks and Rec. Lot B was recommended by Parks and Rec.
They don't,
It doesn't matter. It's misinformation. We're talking about misinformation.
no, they recommended, we ignored it. That's not misinformation.
Just like there's misinformation out there that the pickleball task force suggested lot B. They didn't. We did as a board. We shuffled the idea around of going into the dog park. And he decided we're not going into the dog park, taking part of the dog park. And we were going to repurpose field 1 to put pickleball on field 1.
That's the one close to the.
That's the one next to the concession stand. We offered to put pickleball there and turf the balance of field 1 into field 2 so that there will never be a drainage issue again. And it was such an outcry on social media that we were going to take the fields away from the kids when we weren't. In fact, they would be able to play there 64 days a year because those fields were turfed. That didn't pass. That was a suggestion by Brooklyn. That wasn't. And then we discussed moving it over to lot D. It had nothing to do with the pickleball group or the task force. I was on the task force, so I know the process. So you can say what you want and believe what you want, but it's inaccurate information.
Celia, it's on the pickleball website. The pickleball group.
Not.
I'm reading it verbatim. The pickleball group recommended the CROA board authorize an RFP for lot B only. So lot B
After we
lacks the-
decided to put it there.
We're talking about who recommended what.
Whatever.
So.
Inside voices.
Next to today.
Inside voices.
Sorry, can I make a comment about that?
Sure.
Um,
It's on Tuesday inside.
That's not how I remember it, Celia. I remember that Brian kind of took over negotiations, quote unquote, between special events and the pickleball task force, which we know now is basically the pickleball club.
I'm talking about 2021 when this was decided, not last year.
Well, we didn't decide on a plan until I was on the board and to move forward on it. I know it well because Charles and I were getting along, and then after I went in, we didn't. So I remember it quite well. It was my first board meeting, and that's when we made the decision on a particular recommendation. And again, saying we've done this for 10 years or 3 years or whatever, this is not a pro or against pickleball. This is, do we want and should we be spending $1.5 million for a project that is basically pushed forward by pickleball and parking, but pickleball primarily. And that's what it's about.
To that
me.
point, I'd
Go
like
ahead.
to call for a vote.
I'm okay with it.
Are we done?
Is
Everybody done? I'm done.
Yeah.
If the vote's been called, time to vote.
Clarification on the vote? Celia made a motion,
The motion is option 1 with the addition of lights
so to be,
for the pickleball.
and so to be clear with that, the revised budget would be $1,606,840, correct?
That sounds correct. yeah.
Because if I added correctly, I took the light piece from the original option. You concur, Bill?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be the actual motion.
Yes.
So
please.
Can you read that? I'm sorry. My math is 1,606,840. I added option one, which is 1,458,405, and I added 148,435, which is what's listed for the lighting. Thank you.
And that's lighting, for the pickleball courts only?
Correct, because you're not with option one, you're not doing the parking lot, so then to do lighting on.
So actually my number, maybe that's your point. My number may be incorrect because that lighting also includes what would have been a parking lot?
Not, no.
No, what would have
There's
been?
there's a separate
line
item for lighting for the parking
I
lot.
did not understand that.
So just to be clear, we're voting on an option that does not include additional parking.
It does not include additional paved parking, but part of the reason for making the west end of the lot closer to the PDB building pad ready, which this option includes, would to provide better event parking now that it's leveled.
On the grass.
Yeah, on the ground.
And the land will already be prepped because $700,000 of this money is for prepping that land for no matter what goes there.
It is, but I'm gonna call a point of order, and the vote's been called, so it's time to take a vote.
How can you vote if you don't know what you voted for?
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the table from Celia that we accept option. Celia, option one, with the addition of lights at a cost of $148,000.
The revised dollar.
I beg your pardon?
We have to have a light dollar.
That's what I said. $1,606,840. Okay. Okay. So, motion from Celia to select option one bid, adding the lights at an additional cost, total $1,606,840. And we had a $1,606,840. And a second by Bill. Shall we do a poll vote?
Yeah.
Jared, you want to start?
No.
Jim?
My vote is no. I'm not just saying no. My vote is no.
We got that. Jim is a no. Charles?
My vote is no.
David?
My vote is yes.
My vote is yes. Celia?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 4-3.
Before we move on, can I excuse the staff? Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you were there.
You poor people.
Those people who wish to go home, you can go home.
Yes, yes, please, please.
Somebody take me with you.
You should have said that about an hour and a half ago, these poor people.
I was trying on the internet.
Lauren, is there anything on the other motions that we can table for next month?
No.
But I mean, most of it.
There for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One to 10.
Nice try. Thank you for trying.
Hopefully it'll go quickly.
I get double time, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so we're done with that one, and now we're moving on to the artisan issue. Do I have a motion to accept?
Yeah.
So
moved.
To, I don't want to say that. I'm going to say,
David.
no, not David. Well, give me this. To ratify. A motion to ratify the Artisan Park vote to use reserve funds to redo their park across the street. Do I have a motion?
I motion.
Okay. All in favor? Oh, sorry. Who made the motion?
I made the.
David made the motion.
Charles second.
Charles seconded. Is there any discussion, questions, concern?
Typically, we endorse
Absolutely.
or suggest.
Yeah. this will actually bring them into compliance covenant wise with the park.
Oh, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion,
This is their money.
It is there.
yeah, other,
Not your money.
but because it's under reserve funds, we have to get it.
So their money means the additional amount of money that they pay for living in our city, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's under their.
Just for anyone who doesn't
Yeah.
know that.
Can we
Thank you.
combine one and sunsetting?
Yes, perfect. Have a motion to combine 1 and 2, or well, the old 1 and 2, to sunset pickleball and communications information group.
I'll make the motion.
Motion.
Oh,
It's each of Jared, if his name is not.
Well, did he? Because there's a delay. So that's.
I've experienced.
You have experienced that.
Any discussion? Wait, who made the motion? Charles,
and then
and
David
David.
seconded.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. Okay, piece of paper. Okay. Motion to replace pulsar motor at East Village Pool with electric pool for the amount of $658.50.
Actually, I'd like to motion to, can we approve these collectively, 3 through 7?
Number 5 is, 4 and 5, big ticket items, but I mean, anybody have a problem with it?
I'll motion to approve 3 through 7, and we can, someone can say no.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Well, if there's anything we want to talk about in any of these.
Yeah, I'd like management to speak to why we're changing landscaping
So
vendors. Thank you.
we terminated Benchmark, in February, effective, the end of March, sorry. Prince and Sons have been took over graciously for 1 month. We put out a bid to how many?
29.
29 landscaping companies were invited to bid. Only 3 came back. One of them came back late. The other one did not follow instructions on the RFP. The measurements did not match what we had as measurements, and it did not include trash pickup and a couple of other items that were provided as part of the contract. Princess Sons has been doing a great job in the parks that they've recently taken over. They also service one of the service areas, and they've been over 2 of the service areas, and they've been doing a great job. And these both come in under what you originally budgeted for landscaping.
Great, thank you.
And it also includes the proper maintenance of the artificial turf field, which has not been done previously.
Would you tell folks who are listening, still hearing some, what StarDibs is?
StarDibs is a self-defense partner program.
For children?
For all ages.
All ages.
She even mentioned us if we wanted to go into.
Yeah, they'll even provide.
Do I need to be self-defended?
I don't know, that's up to you.
After this meeting.
And then also, the clubhouse rental fees, could you tell everybody what it's going to be at Island Village and how they compare? Which would be size-wise and not amenity-wise comparable?
Yeah, just so. The rental rate that was recommended by the Parks and Rec Committee is higher than our standard rental rates because of the appointments in the amenity and the delicacy of a lot of them. The current recommendation is $125 per hour with a $200 non-refundable cleaning deposit, which essentially covers the staff time for whatever the event that's being held. We will have a staff member there the entirety of the event, and a $500 deposit that is refundable. Currently, we do require a $500 deposit or a $300 deposit that's refundable, and it's $50 an hour for each room. So it's quite a bump up. Yeah, it's quite a bump up.
You said something, you said something about a 24/7 staff member, but they didn't mean that.
You know, just one during the event.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have 2 specific questions on it and then a trigger 2 others. Is it actually a non-refundable cleaning deposit or cleaning thank you. And I had the question about 24/7 say they will be there during the duration of the event, okay? And then it triggered a question of, will this be reviewed at some point?
So the
I mean,
Parks
will
and
it
Rec,
sunset in some,
yeah, so this is just to get it open,
get it going,
so,
okay.
because there's been a huge interest in renting it. And then Parks and Rec Committee will work with the Finance Committee and management to review all rental rates in Celebration, because they have not been changed in at least 10 years, to Nikki's knowledge. So they're going to do their research and legwork and work in conjunction with each other to make an updated recommendation to change all rental rates, depending on the type of the room or the type of the amenity that you're renting and what comparables are in the surrounding areas.
so looking at all rental rate, I know you talked about this 2 or 3 months ago or 4 months ago as part of the charge for the committee. So that's part of their charge this year to look at all, and is that going to be all rental rates as well as all rental procedures, which means is that facility available to non-residents and at what differential cost? And also associated with that is what policy should be in place while a rental facility is happening, such as an outdoor facility near residents as close as 50 yards, where amplification is destroying weekend solitude.
Yes,
For
so
example, the North Village Pavilion.
that falls more under the Rec Committee piece, but they will work in conjunction with Finance Committee on the rates. The Rec Committee is reviewing all rental processes and
Thank you.
procedures.
That was what triggered. Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we have a motion from Jerry and second by Bill to approve numbers 3 through 7. Let's say,
Jim and Bill?
no, Jared and Bill. There's a motion to, are you gonna approve it?
Call,
Yeah, I'm calling the vote.
call the question.
Yeah, both questions, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Struggling for words.
I ate a couple pieces of cheese and a couple pieces of sausage today. So I'm really running out of gas. I apologize to everybody. Okay, moving on to number 8.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yes, being today.
Just a heads up. Hanging on for committees? Yeah, I'll take the.
Okay, motion to adopt the 2020 ARC subcommittee resolution. Second,
Second.
Bill, any discussion?
Just to clear up. Never mind.
I would like to amend that motion to, at the same time tonight, appoint Dawn Roberts as chair of this committee. If no one has any objection.
Chair of the subcommittee?
Mhm.
That'd be fine.
Yeah.
So do we need to vote on
So
housing?
who made the motion to, or you need to accept the amendment and then whoever seconded needs to.
Okay, so I'll amend my motion to adopt the 2023 ARC subcommittee resolution with Vaughn Roberts as chair of the subcommittee.
You don't?
And I amend my second to, want to be the head of the subcommittee.
Okay, so that's done. So now we just have to find another color call for the vote. I'm sorry.
All in favor?
All in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
You're opposed? Oh, no, you're saying aye. Okay.
This is Delaney.
Aye. Okay. Now we're going to move on to appointing their committee members. And we have ARC, Covenants, Dog Park, Finance, Parks and Recreation, Special Events Technology. So we've gone through many iterations of this over the years. There's a time when the management company made a recommendation to the board, and then it got to be pretty much a lot of the times the senior members of the board would make the recommendations. So this year we thought we'd try something a little bit different. We, at Lauren's suggestion, we had orientation sessions. So we did that because we had several people resign last year. They were accepted to a committee and then they turned up to 1 or 2 meetings and they said, yeah, no. So just wanted to get a little heads up what would be involved. And I mentioned before, we had 70 applicants for the different committees, for these 2 committees. So I suggested that each of us look at each of the committees and pick 4 people. Some of them barely had 4 people, but then there were others that had, 12, 13, 14, at least to give us a starting point and whittle down. So over the past couple of days, that's what we've been doing, whittling down. So we're going to start alphabetically.
Lauren was kind enough to give us this information after all the emails back and forth. So we kind of know we kind of have a current proposal on most of these. In the case where there's, say the committee is for 5 people and there's 5 people in the current proposal, I invite somebody to make a motion to accept those 5 people by name and we'll move on. If there's a committee who has more, who hasn't filled the committee and there's some discrepancy over who we would want on it to fill it, I would ask that any discussion or motion, rather than using names, use the numbers, the random numbers that are alongside these names, because if I were applying for a committee and it was between me and somebody else, I would not want to feel like I was any less qualified than that other person. And once we get done discussing, then whoever makes, whatever we decide or makes the motion, then can then go ahead and name the people by name. So that's.
I just want to state that I'll be using names because I don't feel the need to hide what we feel and what we're voting on, people.
We're not hiding. We're trying to be courteous. This has nothing to do with transparency. It has to do with people's feelings. And I don't think it's necessary to let them know that from the get-go, they weren't one of the ones elected.
Is this something we need to vote on, whether we're going?
We can take a vote on it. That's fine.
I think in prior discussions, prior to some new members coming on the board, our advice from legal, while it's legal to use names, it's just unwise. And so we have followed that. And I think it's just unwise to use names.
But I will have
unless there's advanced consensus.
I will have to, you happen to make that motion. Or just that if the committee is filled with what we've already discussed, then someone is welcome to make that motion using the names. If there are more than what more people needed for a committee, then we are going to use numbers while we have the discussion. And then once we have come to a consensus, then please use the names. So that's my motion. That's the motion I'm making. Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Any
more discussion besides Jared?
Well, I mean, is this something that it is not illegal to use names? Is this something that we can vote on? I mean,
we are.
You can vote on it. I'm still going to use the name.
Just because we're doing it doesn't mean it's valid.
Well, David is correct. We did ask because we had a whole to do about this last year. Yeah, and we did ask Tom. And Tom said that his recommendation would be to do it the way I have just stated. So
that was not what I asked.
Well, what did you ask? Go ahead.
Is there any legal reason that I cannot use names of people on this vote?
My sense from Tom is, while it may not be illegal, it may put us in legal jeopardy to use names. So his advice a year ago was to avoid it. It could put us in legal jeopardy.
I was the person who raised it last year. That is not what he said.
That's what I heard.
I personally made the objection last year when all you did was discuss numbers publicly. There is a state law that requires anything you pass be open to the public. Well, it's impossible for the public to comment on numbers. No one knows who you're talking about. Now, what you choose to do is what you choose to do, but there is a state law that requires you to publicly disclose the identity of a person you are about to pass on.
Yeah. Right, which is what we're going to do.
I do appreciate that this year, as opposed to last year, you are at least going to tell us who you picked.
Right.
Because last year you didn't do that.
Right, we didn't even do that.
But I do think it's fair.
Mm-hmm.
If you think that there's a person that doesn't want their name mentioned, why don't you just ask?
I think it's the opposite happening if we have names and then we say we do not want that person to say that in public. What would be the problem?
There's a state law that requires you to allow anyone in this room to comment on something you're about to vote on. And it prohibits something called an anonymized vote, where you make it anonymous so the world has no idea what you're voting. So Tom did not say what you said he said.
That's what I heard.
In fact, by the next meeting, you actually placed in the minutes the names of the people you wouldn't identify at the
Right.
meeting.
Right.
All he said to me in response was, it's now in the minutes and that takes
Right.
care of it. He certainly never told you were free to violate the state law.
I'll be using names. Proceed as you wish with this. We can continue.
Should we just not? Well, if we vote, then he decides to counter the vote. That's his own consequence.
Well, I would suggest we don't go through with a vote for.
I would just move forward with appointing committees.
For unity.
If some of you want to use numbers and some of you don't, let's just, in the interest of time, I think it's time to move on.
I would also make a caution that I've raised online with this, is that whatever's listed as a vote here is an inappropriate representation, because some of us followed the rules where it said list 4. I initially did not. I listed 4 and then I said, these are all acceptable. So I prioritized, I added to the thing. So then I redacted. So I reduced some of mine just to match. And some others, what you said list 3 and they voted for 6. So we have some who overvoted. And so these numbers become guidance, not a mandate. So it's just a guidance.
The current proposals are based on somewhat on the numbers and somewhat on the followed up email conversations that you've held,
Okay.
especially over the last 2 days.
Yeah, and I just want to say that process is a new process.
Yeah,
It was not discussed, and among the board. I agree with some of it, but I think it should have been discussed. Perhaps.
Let's start with ARC, and Bill can start with ARC and make the recommendations here because we have some names that I think we all agree on.
Let's move on. Do we have a motion on the ARC committee?
I'll make the motion.
You have to make the motion and say.
The motion says what?
He's going to make a motion to appoint the
Name the
people.
names.
Name the names.
So,
Okay, well, I'm the liaison to the Architectural Review Committee, and I guess, based on the last few minutes of discussion, I can say everybody's name because almost every vote went to the same 5 people. There was only one other vote that was applied to somebody else, and everybody else got zeros. So 4 of the board members are coming back. And that would be Joseph LaGrasse, Brittany Locke, Marissa Mosia, and Jessica Palka, and they got the most votes. There was one opening because we accepted Vaughn's resignation on the committee to be on the subcommittee and help manage issues associated between covenants and ARC to try to bring some of those 2 detailed oriented groups in line with perhaps some changes in design guidelines. So the 5th person would be somebody I thought was highly qualified, Giselle Ford. So that would make up the 5 ARC members.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. The way the current proposal is 5 people. As Covenants Committee liaison, I would like to make the motion that we appoint Dane Anderson, Brand Howard, Lena
Everyone,
thank you, Corey Koenig, Jack McLaughlin, Catherine Rupert, and stop there.
and that was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
6.
There's 6 instead of 7.
That's not what's on. That's not what's on here. There were a couple possibilities.
Right, and I'm making the motion.
I'll second your motion.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
discussion, I recommend Pasha Tagderi to this committee.
You have to
Wait,
decide.
So,
Well, wait a minute.
So I'm-
Jared, are you moving to amend or you just want to have a discussion on it?
I'm just for discussion, since we have a first and a second, I'm discussion.
I'm unclear why this wasn't discussed on all the dozens of emails that went back and forth as a possibility. Lauren
You
sent
didn't
out.
read all your email.
I did read all my email. Thank you very much. There was a lot of it. I get more emails from CROA than I do from my job. So Again, I think that was a personal reference and I don't appreciate it. What we have here is possibly adding Catherine and Pasha. That's what was supposed to be consensus. And now you don't want to do that. Is that correct?
I didn't understand it to be one, both of them. I understood it to be one or the other.
Or neither.
Or neither.
Well, first of all,
5 to 7.
First of all, having been a chair of a committee, it is not good to have an even number of people that vote. So I would say either go with 5 or go with 7. And I'm going to continue to suggest that through multiple committees.
Yeah, and if I can,
I would-
we're doing discussion, right?
Right.
Go ahead, Jerry.
I was just going to say, I would support 7, adding Catherine and Pasha.
I would support 7 adding Sandra.
So
Who? Sandra.
Sandra, Sandy Swansky? Oh, she's not on there.
There she is.
No, I mean, she wasn't one of these.
Well, why can't we pick her?
Well, we can. She's on it now.
I think
She's on
just,
it now.
I think going with the 5 is pretty straightforward. That would be my recommendation.
And I don't think it matters even a rod. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Well, we operated without Brian for how long?
Right.
It's not that long. It was a month and
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
then we had 5 after Jackson resigned.
We could do that.
You want to make you currently have consensus on the 5 that are at the top.
All right.
Mine is Catherine Ruger, based on your emails.
Okay. Want to go there? Sure. I'll amend my motion to approve the 5.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Do you want, did we already name the 5?
For
Or did-
clarity, that's Dana Anderson, Brand Cowart, Alina Carolina, Corey Koenig, I'm sorry, Alina, and Jack McLaughlin.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Any other
going to then, in discussion, I'm going to recommend removing Jack McLaughlin and replacing him with Pasha Tagdiri. I feel Pasha was unfairly targeted based on his position for the Lot D project.
Just on that, also, Pasha has applied for every single committee too, correct?
Yes,
Every
okay.
one of them.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
As did some others.
As did others, okay.
And he campaigned to be on the board.
We vote.
I would say that I would be against Pasha because he doesn't play well with others. He's confrontational, and we need people on the board that are going to work well with each other.
He wasn't confrontational tonight. He was very even-handed tonight in a very potential stressful situation. So I would go ahead.
And also we've done work to overhaul the committee resolutions, right? We're going to be very careful about curbing that behavior and making sure that committee members follow, right, good practices and really kind of set a code of conduct.
Yeah, I will
So
say I
I
do
just
think we
support
are.
caution.
I was going to say I do think we are all aligned in making sure that proper etiquette is followed, regardless of who, regardless of what committee. I do think all 7 of us agree that that is a priority for the year. So someone could be
But I thought-
removed for inappropriate behavior.
So what's the vote?
So
It's the 5.
Cindy's current motion is a 5, but there was no second.
Bill did.
No, Bill did, okay.
So pull the vote.
Yeah, I think we proceed with this, with a group of 5, and we can always add.
Okay.
I call the
So
question.
again, we're talking about Dane Anderson, Brand Cowart, Alina, Charles, yeah, Corey, and Jack McLaughlin. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I am.
I'm opposed.
I would rather.
Okay, Jim and Jared opposed. Okay.
All right, on to Dog Park, which is me. I would like to make a motion for Taylor
Hold on a
Benzoni.
second. Hold on a second, I'm sorry. Are we supposed to appoint a chair as
Oh,
well?
yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Let's go back.
Oh, yes.
Forgot as well.
Go for all of them.
Yeah. Bill, do you want to go back to ARC and recommend the chair?
Joseph LaGrasse.
Second that.
Yes.
So Bill, Celia, all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Covenants. I'm thinking, I'm thinking maybe Dane.
I would second that resolution.
So I'm making a motion to make Dane the chair of the Covenants Committee.
Charles, did you second that?
Yeah, Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I abstain. I abstain.
Okay.
Is he abstaining from the chair or is he abstaining?
He's abstaining from the chair. Okay. Okay, Jared, dog park.
I recommend Taylor, I make a motion for Taylor Benzoni, Sue Davis, and Anglis Tassara.
Do I hear a second?
With,
Four of us.
Unanimous.
Figure it out. Jim
It's not so we can finish it.
He's trying to include the chair as part of his motion too.
Okay.
yeah, continuing with Taylor Benzoni as the chair. That's my amended motion.
Got it.
Second.
Got it.
Okay. All in favor? Anybody opposed? No. Okay. Let's see, Finance Committee. You're on again, Jared.
I make a recommendation for Andrew Beninati, Frank DeCola, Tina Dorn, James Pinot, and Robert Wright, with Andrew Beninati as the chair.
Second.
I would like to add Mike Jackson.
And so would I.
I feel Mike Jackson has a conflict of interest because he is vice president of the Celebration Foundation. He's also one of the leaders of the pickleball committee, the pickleball club.
Nothing to do with.
Wasn't there also a comment that he made that he couldn't serve the entire year?
He did. He made a comment at the February meeting that he wouldn't be able to serve for the whole year. He wasn't going to, I don't say be able to, he wasn't intending to serve for the entire year. So I don't think he is a good choice for this year.
He said he wasn't
Also,
sure.
I believe we need 5 votes if we're sticking to odd numbers. So the 5 I recommend with Andrew as the chair.
I do.
No, that was.
I do. It's really important. If you have an even number, it becomes very difficult, and 3 votes happen a lot.
We just stuck to that on ARC.
Well, I tried to get in to change my vote today to change my vote from Frank.
Celia, it wouldn't have changed the list because it still would, these individuals will still all have had essentially 4 or more votes in the voting. So at this point, you have a motion and a second on Andrew, Frank, Tina, James, and Robert. So if there's no more discussion, then it's time to vote.
No, change.
But if we wanted to add another, sounds like several of us wanted to add another.
Well, so we vote on this one.
We can turn down this vote.
You have to vote on this
We'll
one
vote on this.
because Jared has
Call
not
question.
accepted an amendment.
Yeah, and we have in the 2 previous committees kind of deferred to the liaison.
I don't think that's true. We have for the chair, but not for the membership.
Okay, time to call the vote.
Good point.
Who's second, Jared? And then Jim?
I
Is it
did.
you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I seconded it.
Okay. All in favor of appointing Andrew, Frank, Tina, James, and Robert, say aye.
Aye.
What about Mike?
We have to get through this motion first, right? Yeah, we have to else that we do it.
So Jared,
Call for the no.
yeah, Jared,
Jared is a yes.
And all opposed? All opposed?
well, I'm trying to figure out who's in favor. Jared, Jim, and Bill
Me,
said yes.
Jim, Bill.
Yes, just those 5. I said no.
You said no?
I said no.
Okay,
I said yes to the 5, but I'm assuming there's going to be a follow-up.
I'm just making sure. And Charles is a no.
I'm a no.
You're a no.
Wait,
No, he's
I'm
not.
sorry.
Oh, it's not now.
no. Yes to the 5.
Okay,
Sorry.
so you've got
Yes to the 5.
Jared, Jim, Charles, and Bill in favor of the 5.
Only the 5?
Only the 5.
Oh, only the 5, which means.
Only the
So it passed.
Okay, no,
No.
Bill's changed. Bill did not understand the motion.
We're voting on the 5 right now. Andrew,
Only the
Frank,
5 right
Tina,
now.
Jim,
then.
Robert. And if that passes, only those 5 and there will be no amendment.
So Jim, Jared, Charles in favor.
Yes. I'm
David,
against it because I want another.
Cindy, against, Celia, Bill.
I'm against because I think we need experience and continuity on that committee, and Andrew's the only one who's been there already. So we need somebody with a
Again,
background.
I want to make it clear that there's a severe conflict of interest from 2 different standpoints.
So the motion fails, so is there a new motion on the floor?
I'll make the motion to include Mike Jackson.
I'll second.
So Celia, additional discussion? David? Any other discussion?
Chair, are we voting on chair also as a?
Andrew Benatti is
Oh, chair.
Jim's choice.
Yes.
Was that correct, Jared? Andrew?
Yes,
Chair?
correct.
Yes. Okay. With Andrew as chair.
So the current motion is Andrew Benelati as chair, Frank DiCola, Tina Dorn, James Pinot, Robert Wright, and Mike Jackson.
Correct.
Any additional discussion?
So I just want to be clear that the treasurer is on the committee, but is not a voting member. So
Correct.
it is 6 votes.
Correct.
That's correct.
There were 6 votes last year.
That's what it's always been.
I understand, but we have different people on the board. We're in the post Ryan Kenzel era. So we can make new decisions and think about things differently.
Okay. Are there other discussions or comments?
What's that got to do with it?
Wait. Let's not.
Is that the question?
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So Celia made the motion, David made a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of?
The 6.
And
Why don't we do a roll call on all these? I think it'll make it easy
Fine.
for everyone.
Absolutely. Jared?
No.
Jim?
No.
Charles?
At this point, yes.
David?
Yes.
Yes.
Celia?
Yes.
Bill?
Why?
Bill?
Yes.
Pick your head up.
I didn't hear Celia.
Charles, you're up. Okay.
Oh, I'm up. All right. So rec committee, I will make the motion to appoint Catherine Paella, Rob Sasson, Clint Searcy, Victoria Sterry, John Treschler, and I would also like to recommend adding Lindsay Taylor as a 6th.
Second.
Wait, do you want to include your?
Oh, chair. I will, Victoria, as chair.
Second.
Charles?
So Lindsay, oh, I'm sorry.
Just for clarity, if we, sorry, let's start, where are we in the?
So you have a
Discussion.
motion and a second for Catherine, Rob, Clint, Victoria as chair, John and Lindsay on the committee.
Okay.
Discussion?
If we're trying to get rid of we're trying to make this, a committee, a partner-free.
We're not trying to do that, clearly.
So
Clearly, conflict of interest is not something we're doing.
So we need to define conflict of interest, and we talked about this a little bit. So conflict of interest is not an exclusion from someone on a committee, as long as they've disclosed it, correct?
Correct.
As long as they
And
recuse themselves.
Yes.
So
Correct.
okay, so it's not a disqualifying factor. We're allowed to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So partner programs can, and they're not excluded.
Correct.
As long as they, okay. So my motion is on the table.
You want to stop at 6?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is for Catherine, Rob, Clint, Victoria, John, and Lindsay. Charles motion, Jim seconded. All in favor, or do you want to do it by?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay,
It's not that much.
okay, Jared?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Yes.
Emma, yes? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. Okay. And Victoria is the chair.
Can we stop there? Go home? Unanimous?
Celia, you're up.
Joking.
Yeah, Victoria's the chair. Celia, you're up for special events.
Special events.
And just so everybody's aware, we have to flip this room after the meeting, so.
Oh, I was gonna say, somebody's coming in now, but you mean just set it up.
Okay. So we have on special events, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 members. We have Jim Grant, Lindy Camarillo, Nathaniel Cromwell, Debbie Jackson, Dory Moyer, Eugene Petrella, and Carl Leon.
Chair.
Chair.
Chair, I will pick Dory Moyer.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
You were beat.
Oh, no, I'll give it to Jared because of delay.
Jared?
Jared.
Any further discussion?
Great committee.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
No, I mean, I'm not opposed.
Last but not least, sorry, Jim, I didn't change the name.
Oh. Celia, did you become? Okay. You did copy and paste and didn't change?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sorry, multitasking.
Knowing your day today, that's definitely
Acceptable.
understood, yes. So the board had a general agreement on these 5 people. Danielle Duty, John Greenberg, Krista Thompson, Corbin Wallstrom, and Breck Moss. I wanted, and I think there should be 7. So I'm gonna try that first without naming a chair and see if we can pass that. If not, then I will go back to the 5. So I'd like to add Tom and Ken Fitzpatrick. Tom Holland and Ken Fitzpatrick.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
I would support Ken.
We need to vote on that.
Well, I brought discussion. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not a
Discussion.
I would support
What's discussion?
Ken. And I,
Too tired.
my, as much as I respect Tom and like him as a person, the fact that he resigned last year, I understand that it was all a big cluster. I hesitate. I'm not saying no, just saying I'm hesitating.
Yeah, I can understand that, but he did resign on principle, not out of spite or vengeance or anything like that. So, that, as we all know, that was a rocky year. And that was part of it. Understood. I'm either gonna do 5 or 7 as a motion.
I support Jim's addition of 2.
Let's do it.
We want to vote?
Any other discussion?
Question?
Do you want to
Did you
do
have a second? Did we get a
Yeah,
second?
you got it, a second.
Charles, yeah.
You're just don't remember.
And, chair,
Chair would be John Greenberg because he was kind of elected chair last year, but it didn't really go through.
okay. Okay,
Call the question.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Aye.
opposed? Oh.
Is that it?
Wait, there's more, I'm sure.
Fee waiver non-compliant list.
Oh,
17 and 18?
17 and 18.
And B and C.
17 we talked about.
I would suggest you do 17.
Let's table them.
Table 18, please.
Yeah.
Let's table it.
17 and 18, table?
I'd like to vote on 18 because of the timeliness of interest
Can we do
payments.
17 B and C all in one, and then you'll do 18?
Sure, good, yeah. I move to do, as written, 17, and approve all the fee waivers in the request and also approve the non-compliance list.
Second,
So 17, 18, B, and C.
No,
17,
B and
18.
C.
Oh, I'm sorry, pardon me. Oh, B. 17, B, 18. Wait, no.
No,
B 17.
no.
B 17. No,
17 B.
No, 17 and B and C.
And then fee waivers.
It goes back to B and C.
Yeah. I know.
The April committee meetings, the fee waivers and the non-compliance.
If that hasn't been seconded, I'll second it.
Bill,
Okay.
so it's Jared and Bill?
Yeah.
Jim,
Yes.
Jim and John. Jim. Oh, wait.
yes, it's you, or yes on the motion?
I'm just saying yes as my vote for when you get to that.
Okay, so I thought-
Jim and Bill, and
Yeah.
Jared is saying yes.
I'm a
Okay,
yes.
okay. Charles?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Unanimous. All right.
Can I tee up 18?
Sure, please do.
So the finance committee has recommended to do a ladder investment with reserve funds and the capital improvement fund using CDARs. They're currently investing specific places to do that, but they want the authorization to move forward once they find the financial institution that they're comfortable with investing to ensure your funds are protected. 500,000 from the capital improvement fund would be invested in a 3-month CDAR, which is a certificate of deposit account registry service. So it basically splits up your money into lower amounts amongst a bunch of different institutions, so you're FDIC insured. And then another $500,000 from the capital improvement fund would be placed in a 6-month CDAR. 500,000 from capital improvement would be placed in a 9-month CDAR. They requested 12-month CDAR. I stand corrected. And then 1 million from the reserve fund would be placed in a 1-year CDAR.
So that's 500,000, 3 months, 500,000, 6 months for the capital, and then $1 million for 12 months in the reserve.
$1 million for 12 months in the reserves and 500,000 from capital for a year as well. So you're doing 1.5, it says 9 instead of 12.
So
you're doing 1.5 out of capital improvement and you're doing 1 million from reserves.
I would like to see 500,000 for 3, for 6, for 9, and the $1 million for a year.
Out of reserves?
Yeah, the $1 million out of reserves.
Yeah, correct.
Yes.
Which is what they're saying.
That
And then the term.
That's what they're saying here. And that way, every 3 months, we're having a return on this money, and we can decide every 3 months what we want to do with it.
And if I could add to that, the Finance Committee is investigating which financial entity we're going to put this money into, and a little bit of regrouping because of some turmoil in some of the banks out there. But all these will be fully insured. They'll be in low levels that keep us below the FDIC level, so that everything will be safe. And if we need the money sooner for a very small fee, much smaller fee than we're actually getting in interest, we will be able to cash in the CDARs and get the money back if we need it. At the moment, we're getting, I think, 0.7% in a savings account, and this will be closer to 4%. So on this amount of money, we're really making, I think, something like $8,000 a month, which is income. So that's why the Finance Committee put this together and recommended it.
Okay. You have a motion? So Jared, you make that motion?
I will motion for 1 million in a 12-month from reserves and 500,000 for a 3-month and a 6-month and a 9-month from capital.
Okay. You have a second?
Second.
Sharon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, so are we gonna take the management update and?
I would say, I mean, the management updates, all there laid out in the document. If there's any additional questions, feel free to ask them. But
It's also available in the public.
It's also available in the public packet, and there's nothing missing in the public packet from what the board sees.
And Lakeside Chargers was going to be tabled anyway.
Right. But can I just, please, can we put on our next agenda the shade structure down?
So Brian's actively getting bids on it. It's just taking a while because they had to come out and do measurements, and then they have to work with their engineer to create the drawings and all of that. So as soon as we get them in, we'll get them on the board.
And do we have any time frame on the playgrounds?
They said weather permitting a couple of weeks from commencement.
Have we cleared the,
They have,
Permitting.
they have their permit.
Yeah, they're hanging.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Lauren.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Assuming that we're all talked out. I'm assuming
I
we're
will
all
motion
talked
to
out.
adjourn. I'm happy to motion to adjourn because it's almost 4 a.m. So please.
Yeah, in Germany. Thank you for attending.
Where are you, Jared?
He's in Germany.
I'm in Germany.
Oh. Nice. And second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Of course not. Thanks, everybody.
Good job, Madam.
I hate to see the fund end.